Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Closed session went a little long tonight. We're happy to see everyone. We met in closed session and took action on one item. The vote was 3-0 with one absent. Board Member Tabbitt, aye. Clerk Ponser Kamkar, aye. And myself, aye. What? Motion by Clerk Ponser Kamkar, seconded by Board Member Tabbitt. Thank you, Mr. Cantwell. Okay. I will now call to order the September 19th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. We acknowledge the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Chumash, Tongva, Fernandinho, Tatavayim, and First Nations on which we are learning, educating, and living. And if she feels so inclined, I'd love to invite Ms. Diana Abasta up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
It is my pleasure. Put your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, and it was so great to hear so many student voices. Ms. Quiterio, please take the roll call at this time.
Member Tabbitt. Clerk Ponser Kamkar.
Present.
Vice President Alkanian.
Present.
President Weisberg.
Present. Oh, I did that in the wrong place. Well, you already know. We're going to move. So item 5 I did before in the wrong place, but we'll move on to item 6. Does anyone have any adjustments to the agenda other than the one I inadvertently just made? Dr. Promo? No? Okay. Items for future agenda. I have one. If it's possible to invite either Sergeant Lawfer or Chief Albanese to come, in light of the recent, unsubstantiated threat. I know that it's always good to remind our community of the policies we already have in place and our relationship with BPD, so I think it could be lovely to have them come and just talk and share a little bit about the steps we already have in place and that are being executed. Dr. Akanian.
Yes, if Dr. Paramo, can we get an update on where we are in acknowledging our supporters? Remember we talked about, so we did? Oh, okay.
Yes, I sent you an email today about that.
Thank you. I will read it.
That was the fastest response time. You did it from the past. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. So we are moving on to 8A, which I hope you can already see how happy this makes me. I'm going to invite up Dr. Anders to recognize our students with perfect CASP scores. Dr. Anders.
Woo! Let's hear it for her. These are our current 4th grade students who were 3rd graders last year who knocked it out of the park the first time taking the state assessment, our CASP SBAC assessment. So we're here tonight to honor you because you had the highest obtainable score on the assessment that a 3rd grader can score. So congratulations, parents. Congratulations, students. We're here to recognize you tonight. So give yourselves another round of applause. I'm going to ask that our board members come down for a photo opportunity, and I'm going to ask that our students walk up with your certificates and line up in a straight line. You guys can line up across the front. Yep.
Straight across. Guys, awesome. Good job.
We'll just go behind.
This one's math.
I want to
Let's get closer.
This is much better than the we're all taller.
Don't be shy.
get in here, ladies. Come on.
So in no particular order, these students, I'm going to go through and just let them say their own name because they earned it tonight to announce who they are and what they did. If they want to pass, they can just say thank you, but we're going to go down the line.
Before we do that, I think, can we have some of the students over there move a little closer?
Yeah, can we slide this way?
You can all to the left.
Come over, don't be shy. You can stand here. There you go. Oh, you too. You want to be in the photo?
Oh, I'm just fine.
Please feel free to
You
come
over
forward
here,
if you
too.
have to
Let's
take
come over.
And we can scrunch after we do the names.
Can you get him in the...
Charles Bonstead.
Say it again.
Charles Bonstead.
Ford May, Lila Devuti, Ida Roque, Anna Sebastian, Mia Vidmar, Audrey Dometti, Ainsley Teets, Luciana Grogan, Jaden Landers, Van Giverholt, Dave Shoma, John Hottie,
Say it one more time.
Dave Shoma, John Hottie.
Let's hear it for these.
Do you need us to squish in?
Yes, I think we should. Why don't you guys...
Appropriately
get
squished.
closer? You come here, you come. Come,
I'm about to say
move a little. You want to come here? Do you have everyone in there now?
Come on,
Get closer.
Scoochies, scoochies.
We have everyone now? Come closer.
That works. Good job, guys.
Sorry. This is called free pizza and ice cream.
We need a publicist here. Maybe in their future. All right, hey, we appreciate you all coming out tonight and take these kids to wherever they want to eat. They've earned it.
Oh, ladies, we got a lot more. You don't have to be in them all, but there's...
Okay, we're going to move on to our
lobby of children.
next group, so you guys can go ahead and exit,
to you,
and we'll
up
bring
to
in
you.
our next grade level. Thank you
Either
again,
stay
and
up here or-
congratulations.
Either stay up here and just chill and do whatever you want.
If we could wait for any other photo opportunities so we can get our next grade level in.
Congratulations, you're all amazing! Congratulations, everyone!
Good work. See you next year, I bet.
I never got a first one in my People say enough things about me. It's fine. At this point,
Why don't you entertain us for the dance?
Next, come on. Oh, yeah. I got some moves. You can't put anybody else Kiddos up in front. Come up in front, yep. Come on in line. You're good, there'll be lots of kiddos.
Look that way. She's covered.
See how many kids.
5 kids.
Of course you can.
No, there's no more parents.
Scoot down to your right, girls.
Time to perform the surgeries. I know.
All right, Nico, what'd you do? Did you do math? Nice. Yeah, feel your math. Well done. You got a twofer.
Twofer.
Double genius.
Double genius.
Literally double. Oh my God.
Holy Moses.
All right, hold on. Let's get everyone in. Are we good?
We're going to have all the kids say their name.
Why don't you come over here? They're a little tall.
Come on back. Bring your brother.
Let's do a height one.
Who's in the front, like, going to be
Do a short video. Do a short talking. There you go. You got it. There you go. We can squish a little this way.
So I need everyone to take 3 steps this way. All the students take 3 steps this way, please.
Oh, not us. Okay.
And we're tall.
I was doing it, Paul. Relatively.
2 more steps. 2 more steps, please.
Come forward if you need a pic.
2 more steps. Okay. Thank you for coming out tonight. Tonight we're honoring these are our 5th grade students who were 4th grade students last year and scored a perfect score on the state CASP assessment. So as a 4th grader, they couldn't have scored higher than they did, and we have a few individuals in here who did it twice over. If you have both English language arts and math, hold your hand up so that we can see who you are. It's a special honor to have you all tonight, and we're going to go through and let everyone say their name this year, and so I'm going to go down with the mic, and then parents will have an opportunity for a photo at the end. So I'm going to start on this side, and go ahead and say your name. If you don't feel comfortable announcing your name, you can say thank you.
Gabriella Carboni. Thank you.
Dane Gosney.
Madeline Everson.
Sam Dietrich. Flip Walker. Harrison McCallum.
Michael Dika. Max Henshaw.
Zach.
Yeah!
Nico Wing. Thomas Weaver.
Cecilia Ann Morrison.
Everett McDonald. Alan Kamchabekov. Thank you.
Andrew Perez. Anchika Anand. E. Bartel. Sanvika Ishran.
Let's give another round of applause to all of these awesome students. Everybody squeeze in, and this is an opportunity to go ahead and stand up if you'd like to take a photo of the group.
You can come forward.
Only one of us fights. You'll have to guess who it is. It's not who you think. Hold on. Dr. Farmer needs makeup, hair, wardrobe.
After I did that for real for the bond, I was like, oh my god, I need to wear makeup.
Dude, so when our videos got played last night, I thought I was going to die of embarrassment. Thank you. All right. Make sure you
Again, thank you for coming out. Thank you, parents. Thank you, parents. Did a great job raising these students. Thank you, kids.
well done.
Make sure you take them wherever they want to eat tonight, because they've earned it. We have another grade level to bring in, so if we could exit out this way with families, there'll be opportunity to take pictures out in the lobby.
I believe in you.
Way to go, you guys. Congratulations. Look at our City Hall situation. That's from the 90s, everyone. I actually said to my 8th graders, they wanted to talk about 9/11, and I was like, oh, well, you guys were alive then. They're like, I would be 23, or whatever they are. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, no. There's a guy in my run club that wasn't alive on 9/11, and I'm like, I don't want to sit by you anymore.
Congratulations. Bye.
Thank you so much, guys.
Sure, are you still Okay, good. It's happening.
Yes.
Just gonna work on the ball. This one's excited.
I am very
I'm excited too.
Okay, you've got her email?
I will get her phone number from Ever.
Yes.
Ever's the connector of all connectors.
I haven't seen them in so long. I'm like that. I couldn't go canvassing. Like I saw that and like I advertised it at school. Oh, are you gonna be there?
Yeah.
Okay, don't
Ever
have
know
to
you
come.
volunteer stuff?
Are you gonna say like from like 12 to 6?
12 to 6?
I'll be there. I'll talk to Ever too.
Oh my God, he's gonna be so happy. Tears of joy, tears of joy. Burbank Pride, family pride and cards.
Like I see for tonight. Like
The kids need this from Miller Elementary, the Rainbow Club. I know.
we're gonna go visit.
Oh, I love it so much. They're such, they're so sweet. They're the best. They're the best. So I wear it every board meeting. I wear it to say to the schools. I can't wear it too much because it's definitely going to break them. So I'm like trying to preserve it.
I mean, you do go to Michael's more frequently than most people that I know.
I already made it smaller.
I'm so sorry. I think I have to go.
Go. I'll see you soon. Okay, good. Hi guys, come on down.
I have to go to Hobby Lobby tomorrow or Michael's for craft supplies. Margot wants to do some sort of craft.
Maybe ask me first. I bet I have like a ton of stuff I could just give you.
It was, I got her a subscription to Highlights magazine. Nice. I like it.
Maybe hug it out. I don't know if you even know it.
Sashi, up in front.
Up, over here.
Look at all these middle schoolers. These are last year's fifth graders.
How is it? Is it as scary as you thought it would be as a fifth grader? No, it's not. It's better. Good answer.
Sorry.
Tell me
Sorry.
how it's better.
Sorry.
Right, you like that? Good.
Hey, Shama. How's kindergarten?
Is your kid?
He was here last year.
Yeah, make sure we're there.
No, I'm sitting over here. I'm good. I'm on. Thank you.
Okay, guys, come a little back, or you guys want to get easier? You want to come a little over your spot?
I know. Why didn't you introduce me?
You guys step back and scoot over. There you go.
Thanks, friends.
Ladies, come on in.
Okay, so we want to welcome, these are our current sixth graders who were fifth graders last year who had a perfect score on our CASP assessment. Woo-hoo! This means when they were in fifth grade, they scored the highest obtainable score on the assessment, either in English language arts or math. And I believe in this group we have a couple that did twice over both English and language arts. Is there anybody in here that got 2 certificates tonight? We want to recognize them for their achievement and their outstanding academic performance. So in just a minute, I'm going to go down the line, and I'm going to let each student say their own name to be recognized. If they don't feel comfortable with that, they can say thank you for this evening. So we're going to start on this side.
Emma Stepanyan.
Parpunia Sakla.
Claire Vincent.
Anna Bradovic.
Sarna Shea.
Eiley Tai.
Leo Flores.
Anya Rainey.
Jordan Dances.
Shashi Malhotra. Kate Rogers Pope.
Siddhartha Reynolds.
Holden Considine. Yervant Bardakshan. Olivia Jill. Cameron Lee.
Krista Sims.
Hey, one more round of applause for all. So now is the time to take your pictures. So if you'd like to stand up or come into the aisle, we'll get as many of you in as close as we can for a nice photo opportunity.
Right? That's what I thought we said.
We charge for pictures.
That'll be $5. I went out. I'm going to negotiate it.
Very famous now. Our kids are very famous.
Entrepreneur already.
Good job, students.
Way to go, parents!
Again, thank you, parents. You did an outstanding job preparing these students and raising them. Students, congratulations. Keep doing your best. We're so proud of you. Make sure you take them wherever they want for dinner or cook them whatever they want for food tonight because they deserve it. Thank you, guys.
Oh my God. Yes.
All right, that's the last one, right? We just did elementary tonight.
Congratulations! Way to go, everybody! Good luck in middle school! Middle school! You know. She understands the assignment.
Big bite.
Huge, sometimes inappropriate bucks.
Great job.
You guys got future.
Yeah, you asked.
Olivia, you can be a student board member one day.
All right. Never. Literally never. Okay. Dr. Paramo or board members, does anyone want to say anything after that resounding display of sheer awesomeness?
I had one comment to make before that. I just want to recognize all of our students who do their best every year to grow on the assessment. We'll be sending certificates to our school sites for any of our students who showed tremendous growth on the assessment as well. So want to recognize all those students that are always improving. Also want to thank our elementary principals who helped tonight to organize our students. It was very nice
Thank
of them
you.
to be here to do that.
Dr. Paramo?
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to recognize all of our amazing teachers
Yes.
across the district who put their heart and soul into these kids and to teaching them. It wouldn't be possible without them.
Amen to that.
I'm sorry. I love these nights when we can come and recognize our amazing students and their parents and families. And to my special friend on the end in this last group who says she loves middle school and it's not at all as scary as she thought it was going to be. So that was sweet. Yeah, thank you.
Sponsor Camp Card.
Just congratulations to those students. It's not everything to have the highest score possible on an assessment, but it is a thing, and it's pretty cool. And I think it just shows it's a peek into some of the really amazing things that are happening in our classrooms and into the excellence in the school district. So congratulations to the students and to their parents, who I know put in lots of long hours with lots of homework with them, and to our teachers who spent countless hours preparing for a state mandated test that these kids excelled on. So thank you, and congrats.
Dr. Kakanian.
Thank you, Madam President. So, Dr. Paramo, I was just curious if we're already doing it, if not, if it is possible, maybe we can put something at front page of our website congratulating these students with their names, for like a press release or something, just
Bless you.
just
Bless
to
you.
make sure they get whatever, not only for others to be encouraged by them, but also make sure they get their pizza, and I'm just kidding. But no, but I think it'd be great if we can just do like a, pager recognizing them right at front.
No problem, we can do that.
Thank you.
Quick echoing what everybody said, huge congratulations to all of our students. Huge congratulations to our students who made tremendous progress from the one year to the next. As somebody who has a fair amount of test anxiety, I know how hard it can be, even when you feel super, super prepared. So it's so unbelievable that we have so many kids who got perfect scores, but I also know how proud so many parents are at home with their kiddos who they just improved in such monumental and important ways. Huge shout out to our parents, to our teachers, to our aides, to our principals, just everybody, because this is not something that just happens by itself. And it's just a wonderful way to celebrate some, but not all of the amazing work being done on all of our campuses. Thank you, Madam. We are going to move on to 9 reports from the board and staff, and we will wonderfully begin with our student representatives. So tonight we'll start with Rose from Burbank High School.
Good evening, esteemed board members, President Weisberg, Vice President Dr. Agakanyan, Board Clerk Cam Carr, and Board Member Tebet. I extend warm greetings to each of you this evening. As the ASB President at Burbank High School, I would like to provide updates on recent activities and address current issues from the past 2 weeks. Burbank High School recently hosted several events. We had a victorious Western-themed football game on September 12th, which we won against Fillmore. The ASB had a great time setting up for the game and dressing up in country attire. On September 13th, we held our annual foam party, which was highly successful with numerous students enjoying the festivities. Additionally, our blood drive in partnership with UCLA garnered over 132 signups, surpassing our goal. ASB is thrilled about reaching this milestone and looks forward to the next blood drive. Today, during lunch, we had a mariachi performance to kick off Hispanic Heritage Month. As part of the celebrations, ASB is working on creating posters showcasing Hispanic countries to display around campus. This initiative aims to highlight the diversity of these countries and educate our community about their cultures and traditions. Looking ahead, we have an exciting Spirit Week planned for next week. Monday is self-care, so students are encouraged to wear comfy clothes. Tuesday is Care for Your Friends, where students can twin with a friend. Wednesday is Music Heals the Soul, so students can wear their favorite music artist merch or dress like their favorite artist. Thursdays wear suicide prevention colors, with students wearing purple and blue. Lastly, Friday is beach theme, so for both the Spirit Day and the football game theme. Students can get creative by wearing summer beach clothing while adhering to the school dress code. ASB is very excited for this upcoming Spirit Week. Furthermore, our undefeated Division II boys water polo team had a successful season opener against Glendale today. We are also currently hosting a girls varsity volleyball game alongside the girls senior night. Additionally, the junior class is organizing a boba fundraiser this Friday to raise funds for the class of 2026. Regarding questions, I personally have one about the cutting funds of our athletic trainers by December. I'm currently in the sports medicine class at BHS and learned about this through a project where we had to advocate for athletic trainers. I understand that cost was a key issue in this dismissal. However, I believe that the cost is worth it because athletic trainers play a vital role in preventing injuries, supporting athletic performance, and reducing liability. Their benefits justify the expense as they ensure the health and safety of student athletes and the overall well-being of the school sports programs. Many students rely on our athletic trainers for help. I myself am a student athlete on the water polo team. Although I have not personally visited our athletic trainer, my water polo teammates frequently have alongside my friends who play other sports. My brother, who also plays water polo, experienced finger pain last season and was informed by our athletic trainer that it was broken, prompting him to visit a chiropractor. Without the athletic trainer, he might have not have sought medical attention because BHS boys water polo is constantly busy with tournaments, games, and practices, leaving little time to address injuries. As a school board representative for BHS and a student athlete, I want to advocate for keeping them because I believe our sports system might fall apart without one. If retaining them is not possible and the final decision has been already made, could you please advise on the other reasons behind their dismissal?
So do we want to do it one by one? Sure. We'll do it that way tonight. Dr. Paramo.
Thank you for bringing that forward. We have been in discussion about athletic trainers for at least the last couple of months. I want to just make one correction. We did not dismiss them. So St. Joe's has been providing, we have been working in partnership with St. Joe's to provide athletic trainers. And if I'm being honest, what we've been doing is splitting the cost. So St. Joe's is no longer able to continue that program. So they have notified us that they're unable to honor any other contract until this one ends in December. So I have a few months to work with the principals and athletic directors to figure out how we can move forward. So there is a cost factor because we are now having to pick up the entire cost as opposed to just half of the cost. So I am very committed to keeping trainers. The fact of the matter is it's probably going to look different, but we'll provide a service. So no decisions have been made. We've had initial meeting with both principals, myself and Dr. Macias. We are going to meet again and include our school nurse, and we will put a program together so that you guys can still have the service of a trainer.
Okay, thank you.
I'm super happy that you brought that forward. And I kind of say it every meeting, but I want to say it to you again. I always think there's power in speaking, on camera so people can see your advocacy. Even if you do that, you can still reach out to us before too. If you reach out to us before, it doesn't mean you double negative. You can't come to the board and then speak publicly, because I do think there's power there, but don't wait if there's something that feels really urgent to you, because at the very least, Dr. Paramo or someone could have said, no, the decision hasn't been finalized. Here's what we're thinking, because I can imagine you're one of many people for whom this is a really important issue. So I appreciate you bringing it forward. I'm sure there's some nerves involved in saying something that feels critical, but the way that I think we all view this is you're super committed to your school, you're super committed to your sport, and so you're advocating for something that you care about, which is huge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, oh, and thank you for our t-shirts. It's so cool. It is so soft. It's the softest one yet. Next up, Vivian from Monterey.
Good evening, Board President Weisberg, distinguished members of the board, Superintendent Paramo, district staff, and our audience. It is my pleasure to speak to you today about the incredible community we have at Monterey High School. Our school is not just a place for academic learning, but a place where all students feel acknowledged and celebrated, which brings us together. One of the most exciting aspects of Monterey High is our house competitions, which are hosted every Friday. These competitions take place during the advisory period. We build school spirit and camaraderie among students. Competitions so far have been around creating house logos, name that tune when calling into Panther Radio, and we even took chances entering our unique ideas to Adobe for a chance to recreate our Monterey logo. The Student Council is now up and booming. Since so many members wanted to join, we now have committees that help make our school a better place. We have a Spirit Day, recycling tournament planning, house competition planning, and monthly celebrations committee, just to name a few. Our first tournament of the year was a ping pong tournament. Congratulations to our winner, Artur Dovtian. This month, we take immense pride in celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. This month-long celebration is a testament to our commitment to diversity and inclusion. Our Student Council took time to educate our student community by highlighting unfamiliar Hispanic figures, showcasing informational bulletin boards, and decorating our halls with flags from around the world to honor the rich cultural contributions of the Hispanic community. This month, we also have many students volunteering for the Burbank International Film Festival. Lastly, almost 60% of our students received lunch passes and started being able to go off campus for lunch. In order to earn a lunch pass, students must have 90% or better attendance, receive no suspensions, and grades need to be 70% or better. Many students were excited to be given the opportunity to get a lunch pass. Thank you so much for listening. Do you have any questions for me?
I would love to come meet with all the different student councils. I've been to Burroughs. I still need to get to Burbank High, but would love to just come and hear from all of you about all the amazing work you're doing. So I'll bug you about that. But commend a huge shout out to whoever does social media at Monterey, because
Ms. Sharaga.
Ms. Sharaga is great at pretty much everything she does. But it was so cool to head over to Instagram and see you giving your report and all the love that you're getting from your community. So just, you're fantastic. Ms. Sharaga, we all know, is fantastic, but it's great to see them sort of lifting you up so much and celebrating what a great job you do.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Lala from Burroughs.
Hello and good evening, President Weisberg, distinguished board members, Superintendent Paramo, district staff, and members of the Burbank community. My name is Lala Nestor, the ASB president at Burroughs, and I'm here to present my report on September 19th, 2024. This week, we kicked off homecoming nominations, and I'm excited to share that the theme reveal will take place next week. ASB is already hard at work preparing for the dance, which is set for October 19th. We're currently celebrating Kindness Week, and it's been wonderful to see so many students participating and spreading positivity throughout the school. In regards to the arts, Ms. Nakashima's art class has been diligently working on new mural designs for our campus. They've even begun a mural dedicated to our spring sports, which we can't wait to see come to life. On the field, our football team has turned their season around, winning the last 2 games against Harvard Westlake and Los Altos. They now hold a record of 2-1, and we're all rooting for their continued success this Friday against Arcadia. However, I do want to bring attention some student concerns. First, many students have voiced frustrations about the lack of access to water fountains on campus. We've discussed this with Mr. Knoop, and I'm pleased to report that there is a plan to install 2 new water fountains soon. Additionally, there are ongoing concerns regarding the upkeep of restrooms on campus. Students have noted that the boys' restrooms are often dirty and lack necessary supplies, and in the girls' restrooms, several sinks are broken, making it difficult for students to use the facilities. Additionally, there are activities going on in the bathroom that shouldn't be, and unfortunately, it prevents those who need to use the restroom from doing so. We do hope to work together to address these issues. Are there any questions or clarifications?
Ms. Tabbitt.
Drinking fountains are a hot topic. Hopefully, first of all, we only have 2 plumbers in the district, and it takes about a day and a half to install a single water fountain. It's not as simple as it sounds, especially when they're refrigerated. But I know that our facilities is a pretty amazing group of people, and if Principal Knoop says they're coming, they will be there shortly. I think that the discussion about restrooms and the issues surrounding restrooms have been a long time ongoing issue. That really maybe it's time we maybe had a committee or something with students and staff, some board members if they're interested, and talk about some of those issues and how we could work together to solve them. Because in my opinion, right, that this issue isn't something, it's not just admin not doing anything or this district not keeping them up to date. I think there's some other issues that are involved that if we all work together, we may be able to come to a good solution on how to overcome some of those issues. You following?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the phrase now? Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Yes.
Without me coming
That's not what people say now.
That's not the phrase? Oh,
I don't know what it is, but
gosh darn it.
I feel like there's been some sort of solution in the past. It's just I feel like we need to find some sort of permanent one, because I feel like it's good for a little period of time, and then someone complains about something, and then it just kind of goes downhill. So I feel like if we do put a committee down, I feel like we can find some sense of permanence.
Right. Yeah, but you're right, because we talk about it and we say, oh, let's do A, and the A goes on for a while.
Right.
And then maybe new admin comes in or new student leaders and they forget. And so I like that. That's good.
Ms. Monster-Kamkar.
Well, and sometimes new students come in who don't maybe know how we treat our school facilities, right? So I love this idea of a committee, and thank you for bringing it to our attention, because there's probably a lot of things, as Ms. Tabbitt said, right? It's probably some combination of making sure they're getting attended to, but also making sure that students are behaving well and treating their school facility with respect, right? So thank you, though. Good report.
Thank you.
I just want to commend you this being a second meeting. All of you are not only articulate, but also, I love the positive of let's work together as a team and come up with solutions. So thank you and congratulations. Second meeting, and I'm very happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Echoing what everybody said, I think a committee is a great idea. I actually talked with Dr. Paramo about this a couple of weeks ago, because I've been getting some emails from some parents about this. And I did a whole bunch of research on how other schools have addressed this. And have ideas, but I think the key to this working is that it does involve our student voices, our teacher voices, so that we're not making a top-down decision, because you're the ones who use those restrooms every day and you really know what's going on. So it's not just sort of like empty language when we say that you feeling safe is, and our teachers feeling, is the single most important thing that we focus on. And so we will figure out how to assemble this committee in a way that happens quickly and that comes up with like tangible results, but that also involves you and other students. So I'm really glad that you brought this forward, and know that you're not the only person and that the conversations have begun, but I think we need to speed things up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lala.
Thank you.
Can I add to that we maybe involve both high schools and maybe the middle schools too, so that
I think the more
behaviors start changing early?
We had talked about a couple of years ago, and I wonder if it's maybe time to reintroduce this. I had put forward an idea that we all talked about, actually, about having a sort of student advisory committee, because we have these phenomenal advocates here, but there's so many other students at Monterey, at Burroughs, at Burbank, at our middle schools, who have real insight into what's going on. And we floated it, and we didn't have any takers. And I think that's probably because we didn't do it the right way. So, and now we have the unicorn of unicorns, Dr. Macias, who can help us really find a way to communicate this, because it's not just bathrooms, right? It's not just being concerned about trainers. There's so much happening on our campuses, and you guys are the experts. So I would love to, maybe we can have agendize a conversation about this sooner rather than later, because we have the bones in place for this already, about trying it again. And what I'd love to talk with the three of you about in this conversation is, what do you think the best way is to reach out? Because what ended up happening last time is we kind of went through ASB and then sort of through the clubs, because we wanted to make sure that we could reach students who might not normally think I would want to do something like this. But I would love to involve the three of you in figuring out how we can really get people to participate in this, because I think it will inform the decisions that we make, and it should. So when we agendize this, I hope that you will participate with us and help us create something that actually works. So excellent. Abby, Ms. Poncher-Kamkar added it to the list. I'm sorry. Thank you. We are going to move on to 9B, reports from our union, Burbank Teachers Association and CSEA and BASA. I see Mr. Becky. I don't know if we have any other, is it just Mr. Becky tonight? Excellent. I think they put everybody's name on all the time, which is good. So, but she's not BASA. No, you are, but you're not here in that. Excellent presentation. I've learned a lot. Thank you. Mr. Becky.
Good evening, President Weisberg, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Paramo, members of the district and staff. My name is Nicole Jabecki. I am the president of the Burbank Teachers Association. I recently did a site visit at Roosevelt Elementary this week and it was really nice to see all of our students out there just having a good old time at lunchtime, because that's generally when we come, and our members that are working hard to get them all the quality education that they need. We did talk a lot about special education at Roosevelt. And obviously we had a nice discussion, which is great, because that's one of our articles that we have open this year. But is it ever possible to get any type of training for our instructional aides? I think that is needed at the secondary and at the elementary level. Obviously, sometimes when people are hired, they kind of don't know what they're getting into, and I think we could use some training if that can be offered. Also, I know that we are still in need of instructional aides to fill positions. And I think I've mentioned this, last year, but we're still in need, in my opinion, of other job sites other than EdJoin to get people to apply to BUSD. I think I mentioned this to Julie when I saw her the other day at the district office. So just throwing that out there. I want to get an update from our board members about the high school students that you're trying to get registered to vote for this year's election. I'd like to see how that's going. And in talking with Jennifer Nicholson, who's the head of special education, I think it would benefit the district and our members about having maybe a small survey about how things are going for our special ed teachers, how things are going for our general ed teachers who have push-in of our special ed students. I don't think it needs to be very long. It may be something that's like 8 to 10 questions. And I was thinking maybe we can probably do that in December. That way, you can kind of see what people are thinking, how they're feeling at the site level, what's working, where they might need more support at. So I know we haven't done that. I know we do the Hanover thing, but I think that's a good thing to do because long-term wise, we really want our sped teachers to stay here in Burbank, and we don't want them to leave elsewhere. I was able to talk to some new teachers who were at the new higher orientation in August. They were very excited about the extra planning time at secondary. Some of them have come from other school districts that did not have that. And so, obviously as people retire and leave, we want our people to stay here. So I think SPED, I think all of us, even myself as a PE teacher, I have special education students in my class every single day. So the more that we can learn from our members and what they're dealing with, I think the better our district is. Other than that, that's all I really have, and to have a good evening. Thanks.
Superintendent.
Thank you so much. Nicole, I think that the requests you made today are very reasonable. We will reach out to you. Training for instructional aides, we can work on that. What I would want to know is what you have in mind in terms of what the training looks like and what things should be included. So we'll reach out to you and we can plan for that. As far as a survey for special ed, I think that's absolutely a good idea, and we'll have Dr. Knappich lead that along with Jennifer Nicholson, and we can put something out as well. I want to take a minute and just give some feedback to our student board reps. You guys are so impressive, and I want to be really specific about my comments. I would imagine that being new to this, and this being only your second time, that it may not be easy to come up and talk about things that you think need to be addressed or things that aren't working well or things that can be better. But I want to say that it's very impressive that you've done that. And I want you to be able to do that. I want you to be able to come here and be able to say authentically what you need help in, what you think should be better, and not be afraid to do that. Because it's only through your pointing that out to us that we'll be able to address something. So Dr. Macias has already been texting me as I've been sitting here on ideas on how to put a panel together and how to get your voices heard. So we're already working on that, and you just made your comments a few minutes ago. So we do listen to you. We do care about what you have to say. I want to share a little bit about my thoughts on the restrooms just really quick. When I was a principal at Burroughs, we faced the same things, and I will tell you what my natural instinct was. Well, I'll get a campus aide to be in the bathroom then, because they're not going to do anything if a campus aide is there or if I'm there or an assistant principal is there. But there's obvious reasons why we can't do that. I can put a camera outside the bathroom, but I can't put a camera inside the bathroom, right? So it's really frustrating because we want to do so much more. I have a feeling that the solution to this problem is something that you already have, or that you're going to help us to figure out. So getting a panel together and working with your principal, working with Dr. Macias, I'm really confident that we can really find solutions to make things better. What I would say about the bathrooms and the cleanliness, it's a priority. And I know that our custodians in our district take so much pride in the work that they do. Sometimes the issue is that someone goes on leave because they're sick and they're out for 2 or 3 weeks. We might not be able to get a sub, and so things don't get done in a timely manner, but we are working on it. Before the meeting today, I got an email from Principal Knoop and he was letting me know that he's already on the situation with the cleanliness of the bathrooms, and that he'll be able to report back to you guys. So your work and your advocacy is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ponser-Kamkar.
I love that we now know that Principal Knoop watches the board meeting from home. Hi, Kenny. So Mr. Becky asked for an update on the voter registration drive. I don't have numbers. What I do know is that Ms. Snowden-Frost at Burroughs was saying that they were going to all register in their social studies classes. So they were setting that up last week because that's the way that we're going to be able to track it. So I don't know about Burbank because Kimberly Clark is in charge of that. But I want to make sure that we're getting all of those voter registrations. And I don't know, Lala, did you register to vote in your social studies class this week? Yes? Okay. We're getting a yes. Did you? No.
This is a lot of pressure on these poor young women.
Well, maybe we need to work on it. All right, you call. All right, but that's the update I have. National Voter Registration Day was Tuesday. Yep. So everybody make sure you register to vote. Thank you.
Adding on to that very briefly, I reached out to Principal Weaver at Monterey because I really, really want Monterey to be part of this. And so what it looks like we're going to do next year is have Monterey partner up with Burroughs because Burroughs is a little smaller than Burbank High, so that Monterey can be part of the Clerk's Cup as well. So I don't think it takes too much work other than just like getting it going. So Principal Weaver seemed open to it, but I wanted to let people know that that will be a change. It was too late to do it for this year, but for next year, we want all three of our high schools to be competing and participating. Ms. Ponser-Kamkar.
Yeah, I have a visit now planned, I think, to Monterey. So I'm going to see if I can get the kind of appropriate kind of forms for social studies teachers to use so that we can do the same thing we did at Burroughs and Burbank, okay?
The only other thing I would say is I think, Dr. Paramo, and correct me if I'm wrong because I often am, that when we were looking at the DEI budget, we had talked about reallocating, I think it was the professional development money specifically for training for special education. So I think I remember talking about this was many moons ago, but I feel like this is just a great reminder for us of how necessary and important it is. And again, really speaks to when we talk about authentic DEI work, this is what we mean. So
That's correct. We did allocate that money, and we
That's awesome.
suggested that we use it on training for our neurodivergent.
great. Okay, so then in a way, so that's great. So then once we hear back from Mr. Brecky about what that training looks like, hopefully we'll have some of the money we need. And thank you for being here after a long day of teaching. Ms. Tabbitt.
Yes. This is in response to Mr. Becky. Apparently, some of our community colleges have, or maybe this is more directed to staff, some of our community colleges have paraprofessional training classes that perhaps we could ask one of them for some help for a professional development day, especially our partners at Valley. I know that Pasadena City College has one, and we're looking for school districts for their students to internet, but that doesn't help get our current employees some professional development, but at least it gave me an idea that there are people out there who specifically trained for this, so we need to reach out and ask for some help, I think. And here's a good place for, I'll share with you the info I have. So thank you for bringing that up, because I know sometimes as a classroom teacher, that aide in your classroom is more than just another body. They are someone in there that you come to rely on, that help with whatever issues, kindly saying, may be happening with that student, and they're so important in the day-to-day learning structure of our students that I'm glad you brought this up, because I think we really need to take some time and, as they say, I say all the wrong things, but whatever, show the love. No, my catchphrases, picking up what you're putting down, all that. So share the love with these folks, because they are so important. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. It's appreciated.
I also forgot to mention, Doug Grimshaw and Chris Pepes at BHS are doing a voter registration, and it's off and running.
I love it.
Fantastic.
I love it. Technology.
Okay, we are going to move along to 9C, reports from the superintendent. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I think I incorporated my comments
Great.
with the response to Mr. Becky.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, we're going to move to 10A, public communication on agenda items or any subject within the jurisdiction of the school board. An individual or group representative present this evening may address the Board of Education on any agenda item or on any subject within the jurisdiction of the school board by completing a white request card and turning it in to Ms. Quinterio. Speakers are requested to state their name prior to speaking to the board. Not more than 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker, except by unanimous consent of the Board of Education. The superintendent may refer the matter to the proper department for review. The district is providing alternatives to in-person attendance for viewing and participating. We do not have any virtual speakers tonight. So we will move to our first card, which is Joel Schlossman, and then after that is Eric Hawk from Burbank Community Band.
I always think about what I'm going to say, and then when I get here, I forget about it. How about suggestion boxes for the high schools? Or complaint boxes? You could call it a Schlossman box. You know, I'm always one meeting behind because you eliminated the second period of public communications. And I want to talk about the things that you vote on and whatever. So I'm talking about things that happened last week now. But first, yesterday I got a call from Mr. Cantwell. He told me there's going to be 2 police officers here and that these student representatives were threatened by me, even though I've never said a word to these students and it was their first meeting. So I felt that that was intimidation, and it's just par for the course of the intimidation. And a better way to handle it, Mr. Cantwell, would be for you to call the student representatives and say, the Supreme Court and lower courts have ruled that elected bodies, such as school boards, cannot enforce civility codes that limit public comments based on rudeness or criticism. And another case would have been, go read or Google Cohen versus California, because that covers this whole thing. Those 2 things cover it. And the idea that I have to come here and comport to some kind of civility code, you know, I want you to hear what I'm saying. I want you to think about what I'm saying, but I know you're not going to do it, no matter how kindly or nice I ask. So that's my feeling. And when I'm threatened about it, you know, I don't care. I don't care about who says what, you know, whether it's the President Weisberg or this reporter named Rick Assad or, you know, it's maybe that's my neurodivergence. Did you ever think that maybe I'm fit into the DEI and I want some DEI that's coming my way? You know, maybe, you know, that explains it, because that's how I am and that's how I've been for years. And, you know, I've asked you for certain things. I got to speak faster here regarding the bond. I asked for a tour of the schools so I can know what I'm talking about. No tour. I asked you to make a video then. You won't make a video. I wonder why Mr. Maxwell's not here at every meeting to talk about the facilities. Not here. I asked you to put it on the agenda at every meeting so we can talk about it and people can ask you questions. You won't put it on the agenda. And Ms. Ponser Camp Carr, you talked about air conditioners at the last meeting. If you had 500 brand new air conditioners, I guarantee you some would be broken. It's like buying a new car. It's going to be in the shop. So, you know, stop it. When the roofs are expanding and contracting in the sun, you're going to have leaks when it rains. And, you know, they're not leaking now because it's not raining. Okay, let me move faster here. Ms. Weisberg, you're absolutely correct that you should feel threatened by me and intimidated and all these other words that you use, not in a physical sense, but in the sense that I expose you for the fraud that you are, the lawbreaker that you are. And I'm going to read from your own email that you wrote, quote, "Additionally, as it's best practice, I delete all text messages related to anything school board related." Now, I told you what I was going to do with that. I asked you to stop. I asked Paramo to stop. I reported you to the State Attorney General. I gave it to the reporters. I did everything I could do. And you know, a short time after I did that, Paramo called me to his office and he said, "Joel, I apologize. Here's my phone. You can look at it if you want." And I said, "Good enough, man. That's a gentleman. Point made." And that was the end of it. That's something you haven't done. Now, this is a big deal, this bond. I've talked about it every meeting for a year. And, you know, there's a website. I think it's going to destroy the financial future of our kids and the educational future of our kids because you make parents work more, second and third jobs to pay for this bond, and it hurts their education. Parental involvement is the key to kids doing well, Miss Weisberg. So, who runs this website that says I should vote yes on this thing? And there's no, you know, it's a one-sided website. That's not my business. So it's okay with me. But who's running it? Somebody who doesn't even live in Burbank. Now think about that for a minute. Don't shake your head. I have the proof right here, Wendy Harble. So she's telling me to pay for it, and she's not going to be paying for it. Here's a question for you.
Your time is up.
Mr. Promo, can you answer that question, please? Thank you so much.
Eric Hawk, Burbank Community Band, super excited. Please tell us about your upcoming concerts, sir.
All right. Well, hey, and good evening to the members of the Burbank Unified Board, wonderful Burbank staff, district staff, and others who've taken time out of their evening to participate in this meeting. Again, for the record, my name is Eric Hawk. I'm the current president of the board of directors of the Burbank Community Band. And I think the right thing to do to start my statement is by thanking this board. Our band is deeply honored by the support the members of this board have given have shown to the volunteer band. I'm so happy that we may continue to be part of the fabric of Burbank. It's now been 85 years since our first musicians joined together and played for some of the engineers of Lockheed that were building aircraft just a short distance away from here in the 1940s. For those of you watching this comment, you may not know of the Burbank Community Band. We are a band of between 50 and 60 musicians, volunteer musicians. If you ever played a brass or woodwind instrument and would like to rehearse and perform with other musicians, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Burbank Community Band, as we are happy to welcome to our Friday rehearsals from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. tomorrow, actually, at Robert E. Gross Park here in Burbank. And we happily accept musicians from high school age to higher ages. The start of our 2024-2025 concert series is going to be a Halloween concert, and I am so happy to share this with you all, this first concert of the season. It's going to be at the end of October. I'm very excited. The band is really excited about this one. On Saturday, October the 26th, at 5 p.m., the band will be performing right here in the city of Burbank at First Christian Church of Burbank at 221 South 6th Street. This is going to be the Burbank Community Band's second annual Halloween concert featuring music of this haunting season. Among the pieces we will be featuring will be Edvard Grieg's March of the Trolls, Puccini's La Tragedia, which is a wonderful thing to say out loud. We'll also feature scores from stage and screen with selections from Harry Potter, the stage production of Wicked, and a number of Danny Elfman themes from Tim Burton films, including The Nightmare Before Christmas and Beetlejuice. This will be a free concert, and to further celebrate the season, we will also have a costume contest with prizes for best Halloween costumes, a concert for children who attend in costume, and another for adults who attend in costume. So I do hope that you can join us on Saturday, October the 26th at 5 p.m. at First Christian Church of Burbank at 221 South 6th Street at the corner of 6th Street and Angelino Avenue. And with respect to this concert, I'm also really happy to say that this concert is being made possible by the generous support of a community arts grant that was made available by the City of Burbank. So thank you once again to the members of this board, and thank you for your continued support of our band, and hopefully you'll be able to attend our first show of this 2024-2025 season. I have flyers, and I will hand them to the recording secretary. Thank you very much,
Thank you
everybody.
very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. Next up is Laura. Help me pronounce your name. Azoya. Thank you. And then next is Ara Abrahamian. And then the last card I have, and please, if somebody has one and I don't have it, is Joe.
Oh, I didn't realize there was going to be a timer up here.
I know, it's stressful. We're going to do great.
I'll cover it up. Good evening, all. My name is Laura Azoy. I'm a mother of 2 boys that attend Burbank USD schools. They're right here ready to kill me. Like all of us here, I care deeply about the well-being of and the future for our children. I'm here tonight to advocate for a simple but significant change, the implementation of a district-wide phone-free school policy. This policy would include that phones and all related smart devices are completely inaccessible to students from the first bell to the last bell, with exceptions only made for students with IEPs or 504 plans that require such access. I know this is a sensitive issue, and I appreciate that we all have valid concerns when it comes to our children's safety and ability to stay connected with us in emergencies. But I'd like to frame this discussion by focusing on what the data shows in terms of daily harm versus very rare emergencies. We're seeing a crisis in adolescent mental health, anxiety, depression, and attention difficulties that are on a rise and at unprecedented levels. And the research is telling us that one of the major contributing factors is the constant presence of smartphones and social media. Jonathan Haidt, in his book, The Anxious Generation, outlines how early and unmonitored access to phones and the internet have dramatically altered the social and emotional landscapes of childhood. These aren't just tools of communication, they're distractions, sources of anxiety, platforms for harmful social comparison, and bullying. By adapting a phone-free school policy, we can give our children the space we need to focus on learning, socializing face-to-face, and building the resilience and focus that will serve them throughout their lives. School should be a sanctuary from the pressures of the digital world. It's the one place where hopefully they can truly be present, engage with their teachers, their peers, and their education. In the event of emergency at school, there are already well-established protocols for ensuring student safety and communicating with parents. Schools have operated without constant direct child-to-parent access for decades, and children were safe. There is also evidence that says that in the event of a school shooting, access to a phone may actually make children more unsafe. With constant notifications and sounds, children will be distracted from doing what is asked of them by their teachers, campus aides, or SROs in order to remain safe. In other emergency situations, in the age of smartphones, there has been a trend to run towards and record versus to run and get help. There's also another important element that I'd like to discuss briefly, Chromebooks. While these devices are critical learning tools, I urge the board to take a closer look at the policies governing their use as well. Many parents have expressed concerns about the distractions that they can cause, and in some cases can be even more distracting and harmful than the smartphones on a daily basis. Students continue to figure out how to bypass many of the controls set in place by the district to use the Chromebooks in unintended ways. I believe the district can create policies that maximize the benefits of technology while minimizing its ability to distract from learning. I brought a few handouts, I think you guys all have them, for the district's support. The first one is the Administrator's Toolkit. This is from the Phone Free Schools Movement, a nonprofit organization. And then the EdTech report from everyschool.org, as well as the EdTech Triangle, which gives some framework around educational technology in the classroom. If you're interested in more information, the phonefreeschoolsmovement.org is where this can be downloaded. And I have 10 more copies if you guys want any more. And finally, I want to acknowledge that, yes, we as parents have a lot of work to do at home regarding our children's access and use of technology. But the good news is that if we can all get on board, we can make school an easy win for all of us. Creating clear boundaries around phone and tech use during the school day, we can set up our children for greater success and focus. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
I did it, 44 seconds.
You nailed it.
And then if you guys want to let me know, I do have more copies. Honestly, I can give you any.
Thank you. You could leave them with Ms. Quiterio as well. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Abrahamian, and then Joe I cannot speak anymore, Pimienta. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ara Abrahamian. First off, I want to second everything that the prior speaker said. I agree with all of that as a parent in the district. To introduce myself, I'm a proud alum of Miller Elementary, John Muir, and Burbank High, and I'm thrilled now that my eldest just started kindergarten at Emerson Elementary. This is my first time speaking at the board, so before getting to my primary comment, I just wanted to express my gratitude to each of you and to the district staff. I really do think that the work of the BUSD is the most impactful work in the city, so thank you all for what you're doing. With a child now in the district, I'm seeing more of the district's communications, and I'm more aware of the activities and issues facing the district. Earlier this week, an email was sent to parents about a shooting threat in the district. In my humble opinion, I thought the email was frustratingly lacking in detail and raised more questions in my mind rather than set me at ease. After speaking to other parents in the district, I've heard that others felt the same. While I recognize that there are certain policies in place that the district must abide by, and there's probably best practices that I'm not aware of, they're probably designed to not to create panic in the community, I still wanted to bring a few points to the attention of the board and the superintendent in case these policies and best practices still allow for a degree of improvement on what was sent earlier this week. The email started with, quote, a recent social media post has caused concern within our community, and, quote, made references to a possible shooting on one of our campuses, end quote. This framing assumes that the recipient has seen the social media post. I, for one, don't have much social media and had absolutely no idea what this email was referring to. If the author of the email expected parents to recall the content of the social media post as context for the rest of the email, that's not effective when parents haven't seen the post. Going on to say the threat is to, quote, one of our campuses puts 100% of parents on alert. Whereas if you could specify the school, or even whether it's an elementary, middle, or high school, you quell the concerns of at least 50 to 70% of the parents off the bat. The email goes on to say, quote, we, meaning the district, want to assure you that this is not a credible threat, end quote. With all due respect, as far as I know, the district doesn't have any detectives or investigators on staff. Hearing the district's judgment of the threat is helpful, I suppose, but as a parent, I'd much rather know what the police department has done to investigate the threat and whether they have reached a conclusion. The same paragraph did go on to say that, quote, the police department is fully aware of the post, end quote. But that's not at all the same as saying the police department has actually investigated anything or made any conclusions about their investigation. Awareness doesn't mean the police department has done anything or taken any steps to enhance safety measures on campus. I hope this doesn't come across as nitpicking on structure of an email. If the purpose of the email was to put parents' mind at ease, I really don't think it accomplished the goal. I hope the relevant departments of the district will take these suggestions under consideration and work to make future communications a bit more clear. For issues like this, I really think the work and the views of the Burbank Police are worth highlighting in communications, since that's the real authority that constituents look to for safety issues in our community. Lastly, since I have a bit more time, I'll just add one more thing. Again, new to the district, this has probably been discussed before. And this recent event brought this more to my attention. I've observed that Glendale schools have black mesh on all their fences to inhibit views from the outside into the campuses, whereas none of the Burbank elementaries, at least, maybe all the Burbank schools, don't have a similar mesh. I've heard that Glendale implemented this because as a way to inhibit the view from outside into the campuses, maybe for privacy, but I think also as a safety measure. I'm curious why Burbank, has Burbank considered this, and is there a reason they haven't implemented this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joe. Can you get this back to Sydney?
Oh, 5 minutes.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for having me here. My name is Joe Pimienta. I'm a resident of Burbank, and I'm also a participant with the Burbank Tenant Union. So first, I just want to say that I think it's really awesome that you guys have a land acknowledgement. So I just think that's great. I hope City Council can learn a lesson from that. But secondly, I do want to thank you for making space for letting me speak here, because even though I am not a parent, but what I would like to talk to you about is something that I do think that it involves every resident of Burbank, parents and families included, therefore families included. So for the past month, the City of Burbank has been running these town hall meetings that are in discussion for the possible implementation of a rent cap. These are very important conversations. It's a very difficult topic, and one of the things that we've been trying to do is to actually do what is the most possible solution, which is try to come up with solutions together. So the reason why I'm here tonight is just to remind everyone that when the City of Burbank put in these meetings, they came up with 5 town hall meetings, 3 in person, 2 virtual, and so far 4 of those have already happened. Those were great meetings. There was a lot of great discussion. One of them is available online on YouTube thanks to My Burbank. And the other ones, we will see all the results of these meetings. I'm sorry. We will see the results of these meetings sometime in October. We are hoping to see it on October 1st, but it is very likely that we will see the results on October the 15th. Anyways, the reason why I continue to bring this up is because for anyone who is a resident of Burbank that is concerned about their housing, whether you are a landlord or a tenant or you're a family that rents here in Burbank, you can see that how this is associated with the school district. So I would just like to invite everyone, regardless of what side of the argument you are, whether you're in favor of a potential rent cap, whether you're curious about exploring the possibility of a rent cap, or if you are in full favor of a potential rent cap, please attend the meeting. It will be on September the 25th, that's next Wednesday. It will be at 6 p.m. Yes, it will be at 6 p.m. here at the Hotel Burbank. I have some flyers about this. In case anyone would like to have them, I can hand them to you. Now, because they are flyers being given by the Burbank Tenant Union, they do have some information that pertains specifically to the Burbank Tenant Union. And just because I have some extra time to say this, the Burbank Tenant Union put together this thing called a rent stabilization ordinance that we did in collaboration with Public Counsel, which is an excellent law firm, and in this ordinance, there are a lot of mechanisms that would actually, help, that would actually help the situation that a lot of tenants tend to face. This rent stabilization has been handed to City Council and to the City Council. They have it, but we also believe that the most important thing in this topic is to learn as much as possible, to educate yourselves as much as possible, to read as much as possible. There's a lot of studies out there. It's very easy to cherry pick information, and it's and this is why we say that it's a very contemptuous topic. Anyways, so for anyone who is curious in reading the ordinance that Burbank Tenant Union put together, you can find it on burbanktenants.com. It is right there on the landing page. And again, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you see that it's something that it could be improved upon, or if there's something that you think would be a great implementation, we are just trying to include more people into this conversation, because again, it is now September the 19th. This conversation is going to come back to council on October, and we think that it's very important. So therefore, anyone who has any interest in the topic or curiosity about the topic, again, we believe that this will impact families. So therefore, it's very important to get involved. Other than that, thank you for your time. Thank you for having me. I will pass on these flyers, and if you can make it next week, we would love to see you there. And if you would like to reach out to us beforehand or even afterwards, we are very accessible. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you to all of our speakers tonight. Dr. Paramo.
Yes. It was really exciting to hear about the Halloween concert. It sounds amazing. The playlist sounds great. Really looking forward to it. And more than anything else, I just want to say to you that every time you come to a board meeting, you're so full of positive energy. There's just so much goodness that comes from you, and it's very heartwarming, and I just wanted to point that out. I will spend most of my time addressing the safety issues, and what I'd like to say is that I am so grateful that you were willing to come tonight and to share your concerns. You did so in a very positive and respectful manner. and I appreciate that. These situations are not easy. When we found out about the issue earlier this week, we found out very early in the morning, and we immediately contacted the police. When we contacted the police shared with us that they were already aware and that this potential threat was not isolated to Burbank, that they were seeing this messaged in other cities and other states. So when that threat came out, it did not specifically name Burbank Unified School District or one of our school sites. What the police, I want to make sure I tell the public that no one on my staff nor myself can deem something a non-credible threat. When we put out that it is a non-credible threat, that is because we have worked with the police department. They have done their research and have determined it non-credible, and that's what we say because that's what they have put out. When it is a threat that does not specifically name our district or our school site, we honestly hand that over to the police to let them do what they need to do, and then they inform us and we communicate. What we do is make sure that all principals at every school site know what the threat is. We send that message out. We make sure that we triage, that if a school site has administrators missing, that we fill in the gaps so that we can have supervision on heightened alert. And we ask for our school resource officer to be available to ensure that everything is heightened, that everybody has an awareness. Now, the way we handle a threat when we're specifically identified is completely different. So what I want to say is that given this specific incident, what we have worked on as a team and the district office, along with conversation with our board president, is that we're putting a communication that we've already started, and what it is template language that explains to the community what our process is, what steps we take, and what we're doing about it. In the situation that occurred this week, not only were we working diligently with the police, but the police were already telling us that they were going to put communication out to the entire city. And so on that same day, in the afternoon, BPD put out a post to everyone saying, this is a non-credible threat and this is what we're doing. So what Dr. Macias and I were talking about right now is that when that happens, what we'll do is put a communication out from our database to all our parents with a link that connects back to what the police have said, so that parents have corroboration that we are working together. And here's the information we have, here's the information coming from the police, here's our template of things that we're doing. The biggest takeaway I made, which seems obvious to me now but wasn't obvious at the time, and so I thank you for bringing it forward, is the assumption that people saw the original threat. So what happens, and this is not defensive posturing, is I'm inundated with so many phone calls from parents, so many text messages are coming to me, and it feels like the whole world knows about this threat. And so when we're putting the message on, the natural assumption is, oh yeah, they already know about it, which is not the case, clearly. And so that gives me pause to go back and rethink. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming down and listening. And if you have suggestions for me, please call or email. We can talk about it from a parent perspective. If there are things we're missing, I'd love to know so we can make it right and do it right. The last thing I will say is that our school district was invited to participate in a podcast to talk about the bond, and we have obviously graciously accepted, and we are glad to do that. And our resident expert on bond measures, Mr. Andy Cantwell, is willing to participate. I think it will be moderated by Craig Sherwood on My Burbank, and we would love to debate these things, talk about them, dispel any misconceptions, and at that time we will answer the question, is Measure ABC a new tax, yes or no? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paramo. Ms. Tabbitt.
This was a great public comment section. Thank you for everyone who came down to speak up. I appreciate it. Mr. Hawk, thank you. Hopefully, it'll be on the calendar. I always enjoy some live, almost professional music, right? Because so many of your musicians have played for decades or are professional musicians and now have a place to just enjoy playing. And I think that's so important. So thank you for that. Yeah, our facilities, that's a hot topic. Ms. Ponzer-Kamkar talked about the AC issue at Disney. And it wasn't just at Disney. It was across the board because guess what? Those units are 20 years old. It'll be cold soon. That's great. In the meantime, that heat wave was dangerously hot. No amount of instruction can take place, no matter how good of a teacher you are, when it's unbearable in a classroom. Your homes, I guarantee you, do not have AC units that are 20 years old. They don't last that long any longer. Well, okay, maybe give or take. But you might have spent quite a bit of money keeping them up to date, keeping them repaired, keeping them going. And they probably aren't used 24/7 like our AC units at our high schools. At our middle schools, it seemed to be in a place where there's somebody occupying a room somewhere at all times, or so it seems. So there is a need for this bond, and I'm sorry if I'm taking time up with there's going to be a podcast, et cetera, but I had to say it. Things don't last forever. Our facilities department spent hours repairing those and bringing in cooling machines to keep our kids cool. So, okay, I will move on from there. John Burroughs tonight, the rep talked about their Kindness Week celebration, which I think is a tremendous, tremendous thing. And I got an email today. I just want to thank Miller Elementary School. Mr. Larry Nelson is their crossing guard, and it's his birthday today. And yeah, Larry, right? Larry is a wonderful community member who I can't think of a time when he's even been absent from his job as a crossing guard, making sure our student learners and their families get across Providencia, which is could be a pretty scary street sometime, up there at Miller. And when he arrived at work this morning, so in the spirit of kindness, it said on their marquee, "Happy birthday, Mr. Larry." So thank you, Miller, for just taking a minute to be kind to someone who does a lot for us. I think that was super wonderful. In response to, also as well, thank you, sir, for coming out and talking about those things are good for us to hear. Sometimes we can always learn, we can always grow, we can always do better. So sometimes it's really great when we hear someone's perspective of what we're doing. So thank you. Also, is it Laura that came and spoke about? Lala, thank you.
Oh, Miss Alara.
Miss,
Alara that was talking about the home free schools.
yes, so
I got you.
I'll let you come back, but however, currently Burbank High this school year, has decided as a school site to go to a no phone usage campus. And so it would be really great if at some future time, someone came and talked to us about their experiences and what they've worked through. They, as a staff, decided that, here's their rules, that kids would only be allowed to use their phones at nutrition and at lunch. Otherwise, their phones, depending on the teacher, were either placed away or the teacher collects them and places them in a special lockbox until, yes, me too, but I can't show it. But we're set up by the staff themselves because they feel that their classrooms are better off without a phone usage. But that if a teacher felt the need to utilize phones in their day for something they might be working on, that was okay, but it was up to that individual teacher. So I'd really like to see how that goes along. John Burroughs does not have something in place. This was purely set up by the staff at Burbank High as a group. So we've started the process at least, or someone's giving it a try, which I'm quite happy about. I don't know, coming back to you, sir, I'm sorry. I was busy writing what you were saying and didn't get your name down. Abrahamian, Mr. Abrahamian, thank you. The black mesh, I have heard police officers, and be great, Dr. Weisberg asked for Chief Albanese, thank you, to come speak to us. But there is something along the lines, it'd be interesting to hear what he says, about that the police don't want you to cover things up. They want to be able to see in so that no one can use that as a hiding place or things along those lines. So I'm interested in hearing that. I know that there were several times restaurants had blocked windows or office buildings, and the police didn't appreciate that because they couldn't see in. And they wanted to be able to have that ability to see what was going on inside. So banks also, that was kind of a big issue. Anyway, just my 2 cents on that. I think that's, oh no, one last thing. Thank you to the Burbank Arts wrong group. Burbank Arts and Education group, who we attended their event last night, their State of the Schools, job well done. Their new, what is his title? Their new director of development. Oh my gosh, blew me away. First of all, I've been singing and yelling this same thing that all of a sudden was up on a board with Gavin Cho, thank you, Mr. Cho, about the school districts and how they are affected by certain aspects in the state that we have no control over. And here I am again, and I'm going to have an opportunity at the end of the month, Dr. Paramo, thank you, Dr. Agakanian, when Five Star meets, and we get to meet with Mr. Tony Thurman, and he's going to hear Shar Tabbitt once again on her soapbox about the state superintendent. Thank you. Sorry for our public. Tony Thurman is our state superintendent of California schools. And for Burbank, it's $6 million off the top of our budget every year that goes to, now paying pensions is important, but this is to repaying pensions that were lost in 2008. Math is not my favorite topic, but I can tell you that there are no students in our school who were around in 2008, and why they should lose a $6 million funding base now is not fair, nor is it right. And we've been paying that for 10 years, and we are not the only district paying it. Every district in California is. So how much and for how long do we have to pay back before enough is enough? Not current pensions. Repaying what they lost in 2008 is not the kids' fault today and shouldn't be penalized for it. Nor should our teachers in school. The time is done to be over that. So thank you, Mr. Cho, for bringing that up last night. I was so proud and impressed with him. And he also talked about how we're funded and how it is not necessarily equal to the school district next door to us. And so that was another great topic to bring up. That's another song and dance I do all the time. So hopefully now that the general public is speaking about these things, as Mr. Cho presented last night, more and more people will start to understand how we're funded, and maybe those folks in Sacramento will finally hear what I've been probably yelling about I don't know, Mr. Cantwell, how long have you been around it? You've been hearing me say this same thing 4 or 5 years now. So thank you very much for listening one more time.
Wow. Char had lots of, Miss Tabbitt had lots of things to say tonight.
Where are you, Mr. Schlossman?
Hiding. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Hawk, for coming from the Burbank Community Band. I went to the spring concert with my children. It was lovely. Highly recommend. I couldn't quite get them to handle the full thing, but I'm hoping that we'll have a little more stamina 6 months later for Halloween. So I will be there. I think Dr. Weisberg's going to help me out and come too. I'm going to come back to phones and safety because I think they're actually kind of related. Mr. Pimenta, thank you for coming and talking about the rent cap study. The website for that is burbankrentcapstudy.com. There is an online feedback form. I was just reflecting on this of like, how is this related to our schools, right? And we talk a lot about declining enrollment and the fact that families can't live in Burbank because it's so expensive. I haven't yet answered the survey, and part of that has been, I own my home. We don't rent it out. I don't own rental property, so it's been hard for me to understand like, I have a lot of friends who are renters and feel very strongly about this, and so I imagine that part of the survey will suss that out. I'm coming in as someone who maybe has like less at stake in some ways, but I feel like we all have something at stake because we want to make sure that our city is affordable and livable. So just highly encourage everyone in Burbank to take the survey. So going back to phones. So first of all, Ms. Alara, thank you for coming and for providing these resources. I did not have a printed out copy of the Phone Free Administrators School, Phone Free Schools kit, but this was a organization that we had conversations with as early as April last year, March or April. So I've been working with, Dr. Weisberg and I have been working with staff on this. We're super excited about it. There was a survey that went out to parents and to staff over the last month or so. We've got all the results back. I think talking to Dr. Knappich right before the meeting, this kind of came up organically that we should be able to bring it to the board pretty soon for a discussion. So I'm very much, as I think staff knows, annoyingly in favor of this. But I think one thing that came through, I got a couple of emails this week about, in favor of it, right? But talking about this idea of how it intersects with school safety. Because a number of our responses in the survey were about, well, what I need my student to have their phone in case of an emergency. And I just wanted to share a little bit of the research that I've done with like looking at what school safety experts say about that, and that it does not make your students safer to have a phone during an emergency. It often makes things more dangerous. One, because they're not then necessarily listening to instructions given by staff. It can exacerbate kind of the rumor mill and people getting anxious about it. And often it can kind of impede public safety response. So if everyone comes to the school because students are texting their parents that they're on a lockdown drill, like my child was today, she doesn't have a phone, so she didn't text me, but, and every parent comes to the school, it makes it harder for law enforcement to interact. And like, I get it, like I said, I'm a parent, I have a kindergartner and a second grader. They had a lockdown drill today. I know they weren't particularly happy about it, because it's not something that any of us want to deal with, but it's very necessary. I would really encourage folks who are holding on to their child having a cell phone. It feels better for you as a parent, but it doesn't keep them safer. And that's hard. And it's hard for me to say I know a lot of parents whose kids have watches and have cell phones, and they like that they can see where they are, and if they walk to school by themselves, they can see that they got to school. But like, we've got to figure out another way for us as parents to know that our kids are safe at school without having a cell phone kind of get in the way. So on that, with the threat response, I didn't know what the threat was, and usually I'll get like a text from the superintendent saying like, by the way, we had this thing, we're responding to it. I had a meeting with him later that day, so we're going to talk about it later anyway, I think. And so I got the email same as you did and said like, well, what was the threat? So I think there's a little bit here of, we don't want to like link to the threat and give it
give it attention, right? Because especially this particular one looked like a child wrote it in the way that things were misspelled and weird. So we don't want to give them attention, but also like we need to kind of know as parents, like what are you basing this on, right? And so I think the way we tell kids to show their work, we kind of need to show our work too, around like the threat was deemed as non-credible because, you know, it was not specific to any particular school. Police report that it's been seen in a number of places, right? And I think the superintendent can provide that kind of information. But thank you for coming and bringing that to us. Going back one moment on just the phone-free schools is my other observation from both looking at the survey and talking to parents is that where we're going to get the most pushback is on watches. So I just want folks to think about the distraction that those can provide in the classroom versus kind of the need to know where your student is at all times, and like how do we manage like keeping them in lockers or finding alternative means of communicating or tracking your student, whether it is, you know, putting an AirTag on them or something like that, which sounds silly, but I think probably meets that need for a lot of parents. So I just want people to start thinking about that while the smartwatches may not have the same psychological impacts as a smartphone does in terms of the anxious generation and when you talk about depression and anxiety, et cetera, it still has the same instructional impact in terms of being super, super, super disruptive. That's all I got. Thanks.
Dr. Agakanian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To start with, I know she's not here, but Laura, completely agree with you. I think when students go to school, their main focus should be to study. And I've seen those little locker rooms at Burbank when I visited there. It's great. Students put them in, they go in, study, and walk out. And I think it's something that we can look at in other schools as well. And I can tell you, as a father of a 7th grader, this thing is literally stuck to his right hand. I mean, like, and so I'm all for it, and let's continue the conversation. Again, you're in school, you're there to study. Second, to Mr. Abrahamian, thank you very much for not only bringing this issue forward so in such a positive manner, but also I was very concerned too as a parent, especially in lieu of recent shootings that happened in Georgia. I think it's a concern of mine. I think when we talk about this, I understand if even the threat is going to all the other ones, I think it will help to write something again, clarifying it that this went to everyone, it's not only Burbank, but at the same time maybe having the police come in and give an update as well. It's scary. I mean, it's scary. And I think we had this conversation today about, someone was talking to me today about safety of our schools and students. It's also very scary for our students when they wake up every morning when they go to school, knowing that, what's going to happen. And it's really putting a tremendous amount of stress on our students as well, not only the parents. So I think when parents don't know what's going on and you add that to already a stressful day for our students, on top of it, the cell phones, and we put all that combination together, right? And by cell phone, I mean them also having their cell phones. And I think the studies do show that it does not help. But what I'm also talking about is the amount of data they're getting. Our students know about what's happening out there. They know about these shootings. They know about, the concerns and threats. So I think not only for parents, but also for sake of our students, let's make sure we clarify that maybe this was a threat that went to everyone, just be aware, and then getting the police, of course, to kind of come back and add to it. I think it will help. And again, thank you for talking about this, but also thank you for being so positive about it. We're here to listen to our constituents, to also make sure we come up with solutions that benefits everyone. Mr. Hawk, thank you very much. I'm always happy to see you. And I love the program, and yes, I'm gonna spread the word, everyone. It's a free concert. But also, last night during our Burbank Arts and Education Foundation, there's a wonderful video about this tale of two tubas. Yeah. And and it's about our students basically at Burroughs having one tuba because the other one doesn't work. And for those of you who have played brass instruments, you can only fix them for so long. Eventually they're not gonna work. So I think it'd be great if we can find out maybe if any other musicians out there who would like to donate a functioning tuba to Borough High School, or that would be wonderful because we have 2 students who need tuba. Then we need 2 tubas. For any of you who play tuba, it's a wonderful instrument. It fills the background. Without tuba, you cannot, have a concert. So go tuba players. Coming from a flute player, so.
Dr. Agakani.
Yes.
It's Burbank High.
Oh, Burbank High, sorry. Long day up. So again, if you have a suggestion or a donor, and if you're listening, please, we need a tuba at Burbank High School, sorry. And then also to Mr. Joe Pimonetta, thank you very much for bringing this forward. I think public has to be informed about this because we currently have a lot of, teachers and parents who are renters in Burbank. Cost of living is not doing anyone a favor right now. But we always talk about attrition. I always say this, if it's very difficult for a lot of these teachers, or also happen to be parents sometimes, to afford living in Burbank. And that makes it difficult for us. I think someone said it best, it takes me 45 minutes to get here, and I pass 3 districts that will pay me way more than what I'm getting paid here. So this is the conversation when we're having about attrition. It's not about mismanagement, it's just about cost of living and the rent, right? But at the same time, I think we're working and moving toward the right direction. But at the same time, I think public input is very, very important because ultimately it does affect our schools, whether we like it or not. And you've already seen this attrition of student enrollment in a lot of districts where they're closing down school districts because it's not affordable and whatever the other reasons are. But thank you for bringing this forward. I think more public know about this and more they talk about it, the better it is. And with that, thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Agakanian. Thank you to most everybody who came to speak tonight. Ms. Azoy, I'm really happy that Ms. Ponser-Kamkar sort of started the conversation with us earlier this year and really took the lead on the conversation regarding phone-free schools. I know we all want to go really fast, but in order to have it done the right way, I think the gradual sort of introduction that we are taking is really important. We also didn't want this to be a top-down decision, so we wanted to make sure that our teachers had a say, our admin had a say, because they're the ones who are going to be doing the hard work of implementing this in the classroom. And as somebody who teaches middle school, it is hard work to take their precious phones. I have a phone jail that's guarded by Thanos in my classroom. So far, it's worked okay. It's fine. The data absolutely speaks to what you're saying, and I think we've all done a really it's been an interesting, scary, challenging process to educate ourselves on all of this. If you haven't read Anxious Generation, it's a scary read, but it's in my mind, one of the most important reads out there right now. If you have kids or if you're just involved in education, it's really important, and I learned a lot from it. So please know that we are in constant conversation about this. Bring up Chromebook policies, I think we haven't talked about, but absolutely should. I think we've talked about Chromebooks in relationship to maybe moving back to having carts, I would love that. But the policies and what students are able to access or not access, obviously knowing that many of them are able to bypass whatever roadblocks we put in place because they're so good at it. But having that conversation is something I don't think we've brought up and I think would be a very valuable one to have. So I appreciate the materials. I will definitely read them. And I hope that this will be a continued conversation that we have. Mr. Abrahamian, thank you. I got a ton of emails saying very similar things. But one of the things I wanted to thank you for is the constructive way in which you presented it. And again, we don't have an imposed civility code, clearly. But I think it's always more constructive when the suggestions are being made in a way that they are truly suggestions. And I think they're really informed and thoughtful. And I think you brought up some really good points about some assumptions that we made before we sent that out, right? And I know that Ms. Markison, who is the Director of Student Services, Dr. Macias, Dr. Paramo, have been working since that point to hammer out a template of something that we'll be able to use moving forward that really speaks to some of the really salient points that you brought up that I think we all agree with. Because how would you know some of the things that Dr. Paramo shared? Because we didn't tell you. And part of that is we are at times, not in a negative sense, but our hands are tied a little bit as we wait for police to allow us to reveal information. But that's also something that we can share. You may not hear something from us right away. Here's why. So I really appreciated all of the specifics that you provided about what you would have liked to have seen. I think that's going to inform us moving forward. So please keep that coming and never hesitate to reach out. But always, again, I'm not telling you not to come. Always great to have people come down, but never hesitate to reach out to any of us. I don't know enough about the mesh on the fences. I can tell you that at the end of last academic year, Mr. Cantwell, Dr. Paramo, myself, member of the fire department, member of the Burbank Police Department, we did a walk around one of our high schools, a safety walk to sort of identify places that we felt needed to be strengthened. And that was because of a specific incident there. And I know that that has continued to happen at different sites. And so it is ongoing. I think one of the challenges too, and I was talking with Ms. Sponsor-Camper about this earlier, is that, things like lockdown drills, while important, you have to balance it against all of the data that shows how harmful they are to the social emotional state of our kiddos. And so there's this constant push and pull of how much can we do to protect them without hurting them? And it's hard because I don't know the answer. I don't know that anybody knows the answer. I will say, and this is not to sort of totally move away from us, but to me it feels like somebody asked me a day ago, they said, why do you still, so I don't know if you're here at the beginning of the meeting, but I have not stood for the pledge since Uvalde. And I've talked about it a lot. I don't talk about it every meeting because I think it pulls focus. And I really do want to think about every time the pledge is recited. I like to think about why I'm sitting and what that means to me and what I want to do to make our country a better place. And he asked, he said, I don't even remember why you are sitting anymore. No one remembers why you're sitting anymore. And I said, well, how many school shootings have there been since Uvalde? I'll stand up when our government stands up for us. And so I want to encourage people in those moments where fear is really gripping us, because I know that, as a teacher, I told this story too, that I can't even count again the number of times my students have said to me, my 7th and 8th grade students, if I jump out of this window, because I'm on the 2nd floor, do you think I'm going to survive if there's a shooter? There's no training that I went through to be an educator that allows me to answer that question. And in those moments, I get kind of paralyzed and I think, what can I do? And the one thing I can do is call my legislators and say, gun control now. I can ask our city council, why are there still 15 places to buy guns in Burbank? We're 17 miles of a city. That's too many, right? And I know that our city council cares about this. They've been vocal about it and their partnership is valuable, but I try to turn my fear into activism as best I can, because as long as we continue to sell the things that cause these fears, and they're real fears, there's not a chance to actually solve this. And then we come back to this conversation of parents having to get an email that sends them into terror, right? And rightly so. Teachers who are afraid they're not going to come home from school, kids who are afraid they're not going to come home from school. I don't think any of us in this room who went into education thought that this would be a huge aspect of what we would talk about constantly. And so there's got to be solutions. And again, that doesn't mean we just sit back and wait for somebody to change gun control laws. But I do think we also have to look at the root cause of this and say, while we're doing the work to protect our students and our staff and our teachers, our government needs to do the work to protect us as well. So every time something like this happens, I'm going to bring it up. Moms Demand is a great resource. We have really wonderful elected officials who represent us in Burbank and around, who are very strong advocates of gun safety measures. So we just have to keep the conversation going while we continue to do the work in partnership with you and other parents. And I hope that, I hope next time you reach out, we've done a better job, but we can always do better. So I hope you'll continue that. And I appreciate that so much. Rent cap. So, I'm a renter. Lots of us are renters. And I think one of the things when we talk about, there's this sort of false characterization that people are leaving Burbank Unified because we're not doing a good job. And we know we're doing a good job. Getting to celebrate all those kiddos tonight who did well on CAPS, going to visit school sites. We know that our teachers are unbelievable. And we know that because they're here when they could be in a different district making a heck of a lot more money. People are in Burbank Unified because it's a special place to be. And they are not leaving because Burbank isn't special. They're leaving because they can't afford to live here anymore. And that is the truth of it. And that's the conversation that we need to be having. How is it that our teachers can't afford to live here? Our classified staff can't afford to live here. Our families can't afford to live here unless they can pony up a couple $1 million for an unrenovated house. These are questions that we have no answers to yet. And so I'm really appreciative to you and the work that Burbank Tenants Union has been doing to move this conversation forward, because it is integral in the longevity and success of the district. We will continue to see declining enrollment if people can't afford to live here, right? And I want to, with respect, push back against some of the narratives we hear, right? Like, if you can't afford to live here, then you shouldn't live here. Well, this was a middle-class community. People moved here because you could afford to live here, and it was a safe place to raise your family, and people value that about Burbank. Everybody has the right to live somewhere safe in a good public school district. And we have to ask ourselves, if the affordable housing we're building is $2,000 for a one-bedroom apartment that's 500 or 600 square feet, who is that affordable for? Probably not a family. So I know we ask these questions from the dais all the time, and I know that City Council, I am indebted to Vice Mayor Perez and Mayor Schultz for constant conversations about this. That's not anything in our purview, right? Like, we can't, Dr. Promo can't change rent ordinances. I mean, he could try. He'd be really good at it, you guys. He'd be so good at it. But I think that more people need to understand the connection between affordable housing and being able to stay where you live and not being priced out, and having your kids in an exemplary school district. So it really is a district issue. And I know it's contentious, and I'm not an expert in it, but I want to encourage our families to really think about this issue and get involved and learn about that, and think to yourself, oh, I want to live in a community where all of our public servants live, where our police can afford to live, where our firefighters can afford to live, teachers and classified staff. I mean, when we did our land assessment, it was literally just a conversation about the assessing of a parcel of property to even maybe someday build affordable housing for staff. And I will tell you that the racist dog whistles and the language that was used was shocking. And I don't get shocked by a lot anymore, but it was shocking. So we have to chip away at this myth. If Burbank schools are for every child, then Burbank itself is for every person. And part of that is affordable housing. So I'm really glad that you brought that forward. I hope our families will get actively involved in the discourse around it. And I know City Council has been really good about welcoming that in. And I'm really glad that you brought it forward. So hopefully, September 25th, a lot of people can show up and support. And that is all I got. So thank you to all of our speakers tonight.
Can I make one last brief comment?
No, I don't think so.
Please.
Okay, fine.
Because you brought up the mesh, I wanted to give you a little bit of where we are in the district. We have 4 elementary schools that currently have mesh. That's Disney, Stevenson, Providencia, and Miller. The mesh is not on all fencing. It's in designated areas that they felt needed to be protected, which is basically our TK yards in most circumstances. So we are continuing to look at the issue and to provide the mesh when we feel like it's necessary.
Dr. Brownell, I don't know if we can do this with the agenda, but I'm noticing that all of these fabulous people in the front are here for 12A, but obviously 11A is first. If it's okay with the board, could we move 11A ahead, or 12A ahead of 11A?
Yes.
I can see all of us, myself included, just slowly wilting. So I want to go home and watch highlights of Shohei hitting 50 and 51. So go Dodgers. Okay, so. So if the board is amenable to that, yes? Okay, we're going to move to 12A, adoption of Resolution 4, proclaiming September 21st through 27th, 2024 as United Against Hate Week as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Agakanian.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Ponser Kamkar. I would love to introduce Dr. Macias, who will introduce the phenomenal, who is coming up. Everybody.
It is.
The more the merrier,
and
please.
Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome our friends and partners from the Burbank Human Relations Council. I have some names here. I know Marsha Ramos was here earlier. She's not here, but we want to acknowledge her hard work and dedication. Ms. Suzanne Wirtz, Gloria Salas, Laura Strobel, and Diana Basta, please. Gloria Salas, yes. Come on up. Do you need me to hold anything?
Or do you want to, yes. Oh, here's another one. You do choose love and you can do the hate has no place.
Excellent.
Okay. Should they face this way? Oh, no, you can be seen there.
Are we, who's speaking? Is anyone
Oh,
speaking?
come up real quick. Yeah. Okay, you're good. I'm sorry. Don't worry. Thank you so very much for this opportunity. These women behind me all work, and they've been at work, and so they're here, and I appreciate them so very much. You know, when you work with people, and we all have different backgrounds, but when it comes to working in partnership with the district, we have this in common. So for me, it's been an absolute pleasure to act. It's like, wow, what an honor as a liaison with you. And so I want to thank all of you. You know, when I email you and let you know about the opportunities that we are able, you know, to give, the resources that we have, and sometimes at no cost. So we're very aware of, I mean, I've been in the district, so I'm very aware of, it's not as, you know, black and white as like, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And so what Dr. Paramo, we met with him, and this came from Dr. Paramo, and I know that Dr. Anders and all of you have had a part in this. So these beautiful banners are hanging at all of our sites, and I believe they're personalized. So this one says, hate has no home in Burbank Unified. But if you go by JBHS, it'll say, hate has no home at, you know, John Burroughs High School. And the students are all appropriately aged. So for our elementary, it's a younger student. And each teacher at every school site, every classroom, every office, every library has been provided with these classroom posters that say, hate has no home here. And it's in Spanish, Korean, and Armenian, and I believe Chinese. And then on this side, choose love, be kind. So you have your choice of what you want to put in the classroom. So like at BHS, when I started working with Marsha, we brought these, and all of the teachers, that was what our kids saw. So they knew when they were stepping into the classroom, that's the expectation. In this room, there will be no hate. And I will choose, and you know, we work on it, even our body language, when we work with other people, we say, yes, you can be in my group. Yes, I can partner with you. And you know, we work on that. But I'm telling you, look at these young people here today. Look at the young people who are here. And that's a result of, it takes a village. And so, did I leave anything out? Anything? I just also, it's so important, not just for a week, right? I want this mic to become an instrument of peace. I want this mic to give opportunity for thoughtful conversation and discourse. This is not the place for vitriol and for anger. Channel that anger into justice. Channel it into something constructive. Yes, voting. Even though, like I said, we don't all have to agree. We can have dissenting opinions, but we have learned, I've worked a lot on working on that presentation. And so, we all can learn to come up here and use this for peace and for unity, and of course, choosing love and being kind. It doesn't cost anything. And you can relay your information with passion and civility. I don't think civility is a bad word. Having civility is just common courtesy. I see you, you see me. I open the door for you. I offer help, and that's how it should be. And for the most part, it is. I still believe that good still, in the end, wins. And I think that's all I wanted to say. But I'm just so excited about this partnership. We want to continue. We have resources for our parents that I will be sending on to you, links. And I always send it to Dr. Is this helpful? Does it work? So that our parents know what conversations. You talked about lockdowns. How can I talk about that with my child? How can I talk about bullying with my child? How can I talk about slurs if something has been said to our kids? So, all of us, I used to tell my parents, you hold your end of the net, I hold mine. And that way nobody falls through. We all here want for our students what we would want for our own children. So again, thank you. I know I've gone on a lot, but I appreciate it. And if there's anything that we can do, these women, you'll see them. I think we're going to have a booth at Pride Day, and then also when the PTA does their welcome thing again, we'll be there. And anything that we can do to welcome our parents and anything. I want them to feel like you don't have to speak perfect English. You can still be heard. We want to welcome you into our schools. So thank you very much.
Yeah, if any of the members would like to. Before we read the resolution, first of all, if I may.
We need to vote.
Oh, we need to vote first.
So.
Discussion before we vote on it, right?
Okay.
Okay, let's.
I'm going to move to pass the resolution.
Well, there was a first and, no, I already.
Do we already do
I made a motion, you seconded.
I already seconded it.
Thank you.
Got it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Seeing no opposition, motion carries resoundingly 4-0.
Do you want me to read it first? Or do we
Are
want to
you
talk
reading
about
it?
No, please read it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Adoption of Resolution 4 proclaiming September 21st through 27th, 2024 United Against Hate Week. Whereas Los Angeles County is home to a diverse population of more than 10 million residents, including white, Latinx, and Hispanic, Black, Asian American, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, and American Indians, and Native Alaskans. And whereas LA County's United Against Hate Week, September 21st through the 27th, 2024, will celebrate diverse history, culture, and traditions while educating all people on the importance of supporting social justice, inclusion, and safety for all. And whereas Los Angeles County has invited cities like Burbank to join in this opportunity to bring community members together with a message of unity and solidarity when it comes to standing up against hate and preventing incidents of hate and intolerance. And whereas United Against Hate Week will provide Burbank residents with an opportunity to recognize our city's diversity, strengthen partnerships to help address the hardships that victims of hate acts face, and look for ways to uplift every community and the ways they make our city a better, more inclusive, and welcoming place to live. And whereas on a local level, the Burbank Human Relations Council continues its efforts to raise awareness of social issues and partners with the Burbank Unified School District and the Burbank Police Department, along with the Hate Crime Response Program that has been recognized as an effective tool in supporting victims and in fostering peaceful community and police relations. And whereas school districts across Los Angeles County are encouraged to take action to combat hate, Burbank Unified School District has partnered with the Burbank Human Relations Council and created a campaign to open schools this 2024-25 year with Hate Has No Home personalized banner for all elementary and secondary sites. BHRC created classroom posters for all elementary and secondary classrooms encouraging students to choose love, be kind. Whereas United Against Hate Week symbolizes the dedication to preventing and opposing hate and intolerance in our community and serves to educate residents on the importance of compassion and cooperation as key strategies for unlocking and understanding and accepting the differences between residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Burbank Unified School District does hereby proclaim September 21st through the 27th, 2024 as United Against Hate Week as a necessary and important step in bridging division and strengthening our community. I just want to say thank you guys so much. I know Dr. Paramo has been really excited and talking about these posters for the last couple months, maybe. I see the Burroughs one every single day. I saw the Roosevelt one today when I was over there. They look so beautiful, and it's so important. And Ms. Bassa, we miss you. It's so nice to hear from you. And just, you know, I was reflecting as you were talking about kind of seeing each other and being, treating each other as humans, right? I was reflecting on that part of the name of the Burbank Human Relations Council, that like if we can treat each other as human beings first, without making caricatures of each other, that goes a long way in terms of tolerance and being united against hate. So thank you for all the work that you do. This is really exciting.
Thank you. We appreciate you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I also want to So first, I know Marsha Ramos, we love you, and I know that you've been a cornerstone and stone in Burbank Human Relations Council, and no matter what, you're always there, and again, we love you. I also want to thank Ms. Suzanne Wirtz. Thank you for being here. Ms. Laura Strobel, did I say it right? Thank you. Gloria Salas, we love you. For those of you who know me, if you come to my house, besides election season, which becomes a maze for my gardener, he hates going around my lawn signs, you know. The only other sign that remains on my yard throughout the entire year is the Burbank Human Relations Council sign. And I continue, and I will continue, at least till, as long as I live here at that residence, and wherever I move, I will take that sign with me. It plays a very significant role in my daily life. Every morning when I wake up and I see that sign in my front lawn, no matter what's happening out there, I remind myself that, you know what? Love, it's all about love. And our home and the district, and I say this all the time, there's no place, there's no home from hate here. So thank you for doing this. But also I want to encourage our citizens and community members and people who live in Burbank to support Burbank Human Relations Council. These are volunteers, and if you go to any event in Burbank, you'll see them at their table with the signs. And I think it's important that not only people acknowledge you, but also encourage the next generation of leaders to, be part of Burbank Human Relations Council. And these signs are available, if I'm not mistaken, to whoever wants it, but, a small token of appreciation will always go far, supporting the organization itself. You can become a member, actually, of the organization. But next time, when you see these ladies at an event, go up to them and tell them it is about love, and thank you for all you do. Again, I can't thank you enough, and, thank you very much.
You got the purses on the shoulder. Thank you, guys. You're amazing. Go home. Be free. Run free. Thank you all so much. We're going to go back in time to 11A, report on 2023-2024 academic performance. I'm really excited to welcome back Dr. Anders at the bright and early hour of 8:30.
Thank you, President Weisberg, members of the board, Dr. Paramo, district office staff and community. I'm going to present on our academic performance from last year, but also discuss our goals for this year and what we hope to accomplish going forward. So I'll get started. If we can have the slides. This first slide that I put in here is an image of a dashboard that we create for our district and for all of our school sites. What this allows our sites to do is look at any demographic or grade level or really disaggregate the data and compare the state results versus our local assessment results versus last year to the current year. So it's a really useful tool for them to manipulate the data, to investigate with their sites and their teachers specific students or groups that they want to target and look for areas of growth or gaps to close.
Quick question, Dr. Anders. Could we just get acronyms out of the way? So SBAC, iReady, and A through G, just for people who are watching who aren't quite sure what we're talking about, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so SBAC and CASP are one and the same in a sense. CASP is the umbrella that SBAC fits under. And those are both the acronyms that we would use for our state assessment in English, language arts, and math. It also includes science, but we focus primarily on English, language arts. A through G is the college requirements for UC and CSU, so it's looking at a kid's transcript and making sure they've passed certain courses with a C or better and taken enough credits in certain categories, English, math, science, social studies, electives, and those types of things. So that's something we pay close attention to make sure all of our students can be UC, CSU ready to enroll directly. And you had one more, was iReady, is a local assessment tool that we've used in the past and we use this year with our elementary. It's similar to the CASP or state assessments, other than we have control over the assessment windows that we do that. It's also a nationally normed assessment, so it's not just the state assessment, it's across the United States.
If people would like, in your report on the board agenda, there's some very good descriptions of each of those and how they're used at each grade level.
Yeah,
so good information. Thanks for including that.
Thanks for sharing that. So our sites have used this a lot to tell a story with their teachers and to drive their instructional practices for this year. And I feel like they've gotten more comfortable every year that I produce it, and it's become kind of essential to our instructional planning. Along with that, we have PLC cycles. PLC is our professional learning communities. If you tuned into our last board meeting, we talked about our math PLCs and the collaboration that we were doing around algebra and different math grade levels. And so these are some of the cycles that we use in those professional learning communities to improve our practice, looking at standards and what our students need to know to demonstrate mastery and what we're going to do in response to that. And then also just PDSA cycles, plan, study, act, do. And so they use these to investigate phenomena that's happening in a classroom, to make changes in how they address students, and then they evaluate whether it was having a positive impact or not. So that could be anything from instruction to behavior management to student apathy. They've done a lot of different things to try to improve success rates for students. These are our BOSD district instructional goals. These are things that have been established by our superintendent. And so we're focused on elementary early literacy. We've made investments into curriculum this year to make gains there. The middle school math foundations is where our math collaborative is focused currently. So we've done a lot of work at high school in algebra. Now we're really focused on improving our instruction and performance at middle school. And then the last piece has been focused for us for some time is our high school A through G rate, and completion, college, and career. We're going to get a lot of information about that specifically on our next board meeting on October 3rd. We're going to do a deep dive into some of those areas. I don't know if Dr. Paramo, you want to add anything to that?
What I would like to add is that we have had a lot of interest from the community about knowing more regarding this, and what I will say for all of us at the district level, what's been a little frustrating is that there have been changes on how the state calculates this. And so for me personally, what becomes hard to speak about is when you look at data over time, we're not looking at the same thing if we keep changing it. So I am really looking forward to the presentation that's coming up at the next board meeting to establish the baseline of how this is being calculated and to present on how we can improve that moving forward.
Just, I know that when we approved LCAP last spring, we had some, I think, hard goals around each of these three areas. I don't need you to like rattle them off if you don't know them off the top of your head, but it might be helpful next time we look at this to just like be clear about like, this is what our goal is for elementary early literacy, for math achievement in middle school, for high school A through G. So, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Back to the presentation. So this first slide are projections. These are not published or finalized, but these are what we are projecting for the percentage of students that are going to meet or exceed standard on the CASP assessment from last spring when they took that. So you see about 43.5% in math and 56% in English language arts. That is down a bit from last year. So these are the actual published results last year. So again, when I produce this, it can be off of 1 or 2% from what it actually gets published at. And last year's was a little bit higher. Looking into the details of this, especially when it comes to English language arts, we had about a 2% decline in the number of students or percentage of students proficient. We also had about a 2% increase in EL population 2 years ago. Typically ELs are waived from the, and when I say ELs, those are our English learners or immigrant families. They're waived from taking the English portion in their first year in the country, but then they're required to take it the second. So that's part of the reason you could see that 2% shift, because the state expects that they're proficient the first time they take it, whether or not, they've been here for that long or not.
Nice, they give us so much money to do that.
It also correlates with some schools. We saw some schools that had some decline in their percentage. Those same schools had the biggest increase in English language learner population. Also, I wanted to, we'll see this later, but sixth grade was another grade where we saw some decline, in part because we get a lot of new families to the district in sixth grade. They come from other elementaries or other districts and enroll for the first time in sixth grade. But just going to go through this quickly, a historic stroll through our CASP results as a district in English language arts. If we go all the way back to 2018-19, these are pre-pandemic numbers. We actually gained over the pandemic, and we're still higher in math than we were pre-pandemic. So I have to admit that a part of that has to play in that they changed the test and made it shorter. So students are persevering and getting higher scores because they're not shutting down on the assessment. But it also validates that it's just one assessment of our programs, and sometimes the validity of it depends on how good the assessment is. So we're going to move on to elementary academics and discuss those, and I'd like to bring up our Director of Elementary, Ms. Rebecca Harris, to share our elementary instructional initiatives.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very proud of the initiatives that we have going on in elementary. A lot of good things are happening. There is, as we've already heard tonight, a major focus on language arts and particularly those foundational literacy skills. I'm sure you're aware that we have a new phonics program, for example, that we are really emphasizing with the teachers here, with a particular focus on just getting kids to learn to read. And I will also add within that to enjoy reading at the same time, because that's important as well across different genres. In mathematics, we are very proud of our continued partnership with the California Education Partners, and that includes an expansion of our math instructional leadership teams, which is happening in all of our elementary schools with a lot of different teachers involved across the district. In science, we are in our second year of our new program, which is called FOSS. So I'm excited because everything was so new at once when you have a new program, and now we have this year to continue to learn and grow within our practices. For the arts, we have been able to use our Proposition 28 funding to expand in the arts instruction that we provide for our students. One example is the addition of music teachers for second and third graders across the district. Of course, we still have our PE teachers, which are certificated teachers provided for our students in third grade through fifth grade. We have a supplemental program called Step Up to Writing, which, although it has writing in the name, is really pretty all-inclusive for language arts skills, reading strategies, teaching kids to effectively develop in the writing process, a lot of great things within that. And finally, and very excitingly, our STEAM labs that you will find in our elementary schools. Each one has its own unique shade and aspects to it, but those are largely funded by the Young Sheldon Grant. And kids get to do everything in those labs, anything ranging from robotics to working with green screens, to work with Legos, and most importantly, I think a lot of opportunities to be creative, innovative, and collaborative in new ways that go beyond the traditional classroom setting. Thank you.
Not to be a downer, but the PE teachers is just this year, right?
Run away.
Yeah, okay. No, I just want to make sure. Okay. That was a thing. But yeah, so do all of the elementary schools now have STEAM labs?
Yes, they all have.
They've all got them implemented?
They all have some form of a STEAM lab.
Okay, great.
And they're all, I guess, kind of operated in different ways, but they all have STEAM labs where students rotate through them throughout the week.
Yeah, it's my kids' favorite part. Probably
their
one of the favorite part of the
day,
week. Like
yeah.
they talk about it for days before and days after that they get to go to STEAM lab. Like it's amazing. But I'm really glad. I know it like took some time to get it in place everywhere, so that's awesome.
And since you're saying that, I'll say that one thing that I like about the STEAM labs is that it provides differentiated opportunities, not just for the kids, but for the teachers, because it takes the level of comfort as a teacher to use that type of space. Thank you.
And this was your first official report as the new, right?
Well done.
I have to echo the STEAM lab. I have a kindergartner this year, and I've been asking every day what he does. And the first time I didn't have to ask, he just spoke up, was the STEAM lab. Okay, so our elementary data, jumping right in for last year, this is organized 5th at the top, down 4th and 3rd. And this is organized by bands, gray being did not meet standard, yellow nearly met standard, green met standard, and then the blue is exceeded standard. This will be the same pattern throughout the rest of these slides. Normally our elementary grades are very consistent across the board. This year we saw a decline in 3rd and 4th, mostly in 3rd. And if you look at last year, you can see that change. We had a really high-performing 4th grade last year that went into 5th grade this year, so you can see that the numbers went up in 5th grade. But 3rd and 4th, you have to remember these are students who did not have in-person instruction in kinder and first, and so there is a lot of not just teaching that is going on in those classrooms. There's a lot of other things that are happening. So maybe not as much content's being delivered, but a lot of learning is still occurring in those classrooms. These are iReady assessments. So these are our local assessments. We use these to compare to the state assessments and also predict. We use these often as live data to intervene early in the school year, provide students with intervention or reteaching opportunities. Our teachers also use these for small group instruction in their classrooms as well. Last year with iReady, we did have the personalized pathway for students that allowed them to get a personalized instructional pathway within the program. That is not in place this year. That was traditionally funded by COVID funds, one-time monies, and so we had to find new funding to be able to continue the assessments, but we didn't have the funding to continue that personalized pathway. Although some sites may have found site funds for that.
Was just noticing that, so you pointed out kind of the difference in the ELA for the state assessment, but you don't see that on the iReady. Like, what do you attribute that to, right? The iReady looks much more kind of consistent across grades, if I'm reading this correctly, the grade 3 students improving or doing better than you would have expected them to do on the state assessment, or they did better on iReady than you would expect them to do based on their state assessment data? Is that just they're more comfortable with iReady because they take it a number of times during the year? Are we getting out of alignment in some way, or is there something else going on there?
So iReady is, again, a national assessment, so it's not exactly aligned, very closely aligned to our state standards. But they do try to come up with questions that are going to be similar to what is on the SBAC assessment, but sometimes the SBAC assessment is going to be a little wordier, especially the math part of that is there's a lot of reading involved with taking the SBAC and math. I mean, we're looking at just English scores here. The other thing that iReady does is it's only a diagnostic for reading. It's not scoring writing. So we are going to see a difference with our CAS scores because they're looking at writing samples in that. Math district data. So again, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and same thing's true. High performing 4th grade moving into 5th from last year. So you can see this year's data, and then this year's data, and then following it is the previous years. iReady data as well for our local assessments in math. Math is different with our English language learners. They're expected to take that the first year they're with us. So again, one of the things that's been challenging with that is there's a lot of reading involved with the SBAC specifically. So in some sense, we like our local assessments better when it comes to math because there's not as many barriers for students that have those needs. We're going to move to secondary academics now, and I'm going to go through our initiatives. Dr. Macias and myself work hand in hand a lot of the secondary initiatives, so if he has anything he'd like to add, he's more than welcome to do that. But we're looking at new AP textbook adoptions for this school year, so we've gone through a cycle of adopting textbooks for all of our core subject areas, including just finishing up textbook adoptions for health and world language. And so our next strategy is tackling a few unique one or two section courses. So this is a much smaller adoption across the board because it's only a few classes at each school as opposed to like a whole department. But these are classes that probably haven't seen new textbooks in 12 to 15 years. Some of these AP classes, the textbooks we are using will no longer be accepted by the College Board, so we're sort of forced to move on to a new textbook. This is all paid for lottery funds, and it's a separate funding source for that. New curriculum coming to secondary is courses at the high school level in ethnic studies, and then also incorporating financial literacy into our curriculum at the high school level. Ethnic studies is going to come first, and that's actually going to start next fall. We've been working with our social studies teachers to develop a curriculum, and they're going to pilot that curriculum with upperclassmen this year. So that they can get one round of teaching and do it with a mature level of student. And then the goal is to begin using that curriculum with our 9th grade students in freshman year going forward. So that'll be a new course, and that's not us, although we're really excited about the ethnic studies course, this is a state requirement that we need to meet. The same with financial literacy, the timeline for that's a little further out, but the state will be requiring curriculum at the high school level on financial literacy in the next year, 2 or 3 years.
I don't think we need to do this anytime soon, but I do think at some point we should have a report on the ethnic studies curriculum. I don't think people understand that it's state mandated, and I know that it looks a little bit different in different districts, so it could be I think it's an important thing to talk about early and often with our families.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And just, I want to make sure that I heard what you said, Dr. Anders. So they're piloting some of the curriculum this year with seniors, but in the future it will be a course that's offered for ninth graders as their kind of social studies credit for the year?
It's going.
Or is it as an
it's going to be a social studies credit.
Okay,
yeah.
great, thank you.
Next bullet there is we have a new partnership with California Colleges Initiative. This is CCGI. We're really excited about this for our A through G rate. It's going to allow us to provide a dashboard for our site counselors and admin to look at all of our students to see who's on track, who's not on track. Previously, it's been difficult to do that. You have had to look student by student. And this allows them to see not just a snapshot of all the students, but give sort of graphs and diagrams of where we're doing well and where we're not. And so I think it's going to be a game changer for some of that planning at the school site. This is free, so it used to not be free. It's free now, so it's not costing us anything. It's just a lot of work with data to make this work, and so we're closing the gap on that and sending them new files tomorrow. And I think once they get the new files, we're good to green light this. It'll also help us track FAFSA completion, and a big perk for our families is that once we're able to launch this, they no longer have to do all the legwork of putting in their transcript information. Everything will populate through this system into their college applications. So pretty cool system. It's funded by the state, and so it's just a thing that opportunity that we need to take advantage of. New English Language Arts collaboration with California Education Partners. So you've heard of the Math Collaborative and the work we've done in algebra. We're getting this started with our English teachers. We're focused on 8th and 9th grade transitions. And right now we're taking we've already identified promise standards, essential standards, and we're leveraging those to really make sure our teachers are teaching those consistently across all 8th and 9th grade classrooms to help with that transition of 9th grade teachers knowing exactly what 8th graders come to them with, and making sure we're clear on what we're teaching is at grade level so that students are coming prepared. And the last one here is the continuation of the Math Collaborative. I don't need to go on about that because you heard a lot about that at the last board meeting, but we just had our first convening Wednesday and Thursday today of this week. Seems like weeks ago already, but and Greg Everhart's doing a great job with that group, and we support a lot of their work. So we're going to look at some middle school end of year data. Again, one of the things I had said earlier is that 6th grade was a challenging year, and part of that is because we get a lot of new families and new students to us that haven't gone through our elementary system, so it's sort of a calibrating. Our 7th and 8th grade had gains from last year, especially our 7th grade. And then in math, similar trend on both of those fronts with our 7th grade doing well. A focus for us at the middle school and high school has been our grade distributions and looking at these. And so this is just looking at last year broken out by semester. Typically, semester 2's a little more challenging. Students kind of lose some momentum, or they may feel defeated by that point. But that's a lot of the conversation we've been having in math of really getting kids to feel approach from a different standpoint and growth mindset. In ELA distribution, again, 6th through 12th grade, these are the breakdowns of the DNF rates. These are important to us because they drive the A through G completion. It's not just failing, so fails we monitor because we want students to graduate, but we also monitor Ds very closely because we want them to be A through G.
So Dr. Anders, I noticed in looking at this data that 10th grade seems to be particularly a problem on Ds and F rates across for both. What's going on there? I wish I had a more.
It has been that way for decades.
Yeah.
And that is across the board nationally.
What do you attribute that to?
They're just squirrely, or, I mean, I taught 10th grade, I should know, or that age. The courses, that's really when things ramp up in terms of
That is correct.
rigor.
That is correct. And the coursework for 10th grade, the subjects that are assigned to them for that year are harder.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean, that was one kind of noticing of mine, and then the other one was like, you were mentioning kind of second semester looks worse usually, but it was funny because like that happens in math, in particular for I think 10th grade, but it's like the reverse for ELA, and I was like, what is happening here? I think this is really good data. I wonder if there are ways for us to be more supportive of our sophomores in some way. I don't know the answer to that, and maybe I know that Burroughs does the academic excellence time. I don't know if that's something that they're doing at Burbank High as well, but I know that's something that Dr. Knoop is, or Kenny Knoop is kind of working on, right? Is calibrating those groups really closely.
You go, then I'll say my thing.
No, I was just going to say that is correct, and I think that Burroughs is just a little bit further ahead with that academic excellence period, but Burbank High is interested in something like that. So they're working on that.
I think it could be interesting when time permits, if maybe Dr. Anders, Dr. Macias, whoever, if we could talk to some of the 10th grade math teachers and just have anecdotal conversations with them about what are they seeing, what do they think is happening, what kind of supports, if, again, always if there was no limit on time or money, like what would they need? Because at least then we're informed a little bit, and whether we can do it or not would be the second step, but I think it's always helpful to hear from them. And I think your point is well taken, like the step up in math is pretty huge, but we can already see the impact of Math Collaborative, obviously not in 10th grade, but when we are able to refocus and sort of reform the way that we're engaging our students. And so it'd be really interesting to know from our teachers, what do they think we could put in place to support?
Well, and the other thing that makes me think of is, and correct me if I'm wrong on the scheduling side of things, but all the 10th graders are in the same ELA course, essentially, right?
Correct.
But the 10th graders might be in a mix of different math courses.
Correct.
Are the bulk of them, is that geometry or algebra? Geometry? Okay. So that's just the other thing that makes me really curious about this data, is you have like one set of like every kid taking the same class and seeing the same result as the same set of kids taking very different courses. So something makes me it might just be an overall step up in the rigor that happens in 10th grade. I wonder what they're thinking.
If you think about a typical 10th grade schedule, they're either taking English 10 or English 10 honors. The majority are taking geometry, but some are taking algebra 2. They're now taking chemistry in the 10th grade because they did bio in their freshman year. And now, in terms of social studies, there are a good portion of kids that are also taking their very first AP class, and they're taking AP Euro. So they are taking much heavier classes that are much more challenging, and they're also living up to their intended sophomoric ages, where they're still at that point where they're maturing but not quite there, and all those things are a combination of why you see this dip in the scores when it comes to 10th grade.
Can I ask one more quick follow-up, and then I'll be quiet? Probably. I mean it. I didn't say sorry. So 2 questions. For the kids who are, let's say, in 10th grade now, what grades I'm trying to count backwards for when they were distance learning. Were they in 6th, 7th? I don't know what day it is.
23, 24, so.
6th grade.
Okay, so that, I don't know that that has much impact, because I was thinking about in 7th and 8th grade, when they start to jump into algebra, what correlation there might be there. But I also, right. I also wonder too, though, is this something that we can talk about with, just with 10th graders in general? Like, what are we doing as far as social emotional supports for them? You know, I know like Link Crew and the mentorship programs that the kids have are really great, but I wonder if we couldn't drill down a little bit with that sophomore year and see what we can do to, and I'm sure those conversations have already been happening.
Yeah, I want to look at some specific courses, because we can get into the nitty gritty of what those 10th graders are taking and tease out some details there. So if we can get the slides back up, I'm going to move on to our A through G data. Again, A through G data and DNF rates. This is making sure our students have met the requirements to go straight into a CSU or UC. And so there's geometry.
Ooh, geometry.
Again, I know it's a good place to be focused, because algebra used to be the top of the list. So we've done a lot of work there. We in our math collaborative, there's been two things we've been discussing. One is focusing on 7th grade, because that's when a lot of new concepts are taught in middle school. And that's sort of like the new algebra, as far as finding kids there and making sure they don't get off track in 7th grade to go through. So that's one piece. The other piece that they've been talking a lot about is our advanced students that are on the super accelerated tracks. Sometimes by the 10th grade, they're taking either Algebra 2 or pre-calc, and they're not always as prepared as they think they are. So that's something we've really been discussing of whether we're over-identifying or we're doing some harm with the amount of students that are in those accelerated tracks. Because it's a lot to do in middle school to go through math that quickly. And some kids obviously are cut out for it. We saw them here tonight. But I think there might be some kids that are really high achievers, but not necessarily the math genius that can just pick that stuff up naturally without going in more detail. But you can see the other courses here that we're monitoring and that we work with our sites and our counselors and have conversations. And this really does drive those interventions of creating opportunities for students to improve their grade.
Dr. Anders, are these mislabeled in terms of years? Or are we looking at 2022 and 23?
Oh, I'm sorry. We are looking at 23.
Okay, that's what I figured. But I just
yeah, 23 and 24. My apologies for that. So this would be spring of 24, A through G courses and the fail rates. Spanish 1, biology, geometry, these are all A through G courses that we want to look at. Spanish 1, depending on the student, typically is in freshman year. Biology is a freshman course now. These are our D rates. Again, the fall of 23. This is where algebra is back at the top, so we've made some headway there, but again, it's a concern for our students. They do need to pass with a C or better to move forward. And that's one difference between math and English is math, they don't progress until they've passed with a C or better, whereas English, they go to the next grade level.
Can I ask a quick question? So I know this is not the most important focus as far as coursework goes, but we had talked about this a little bit before when you look at things like dance, art structure, film and TV production, and sculpture. And so I initially assumed, and this is why I think when you look at metrics for education, it's so different than everything else because there's a story behind every number, but that it isn't necessarily about kids just blowing off those courses, but often it's when we have students who have IEPs or 504s in these electives and their needs aren't being met. And so I think that speaks again to something that Mr. Brecky brought up earlier, which is, are we providing our teachers who are teaching our elective courses the kind of support they need to be supporting our students who are learning differently? And I just, yeah, so I want us to at some point have a conversation about that, just because, I mean, there's a lot of those type of courses on this list. The numbers aren't quite as high, but I think that speaks to something we can identify and address.
And what is the S in parentheses? Remind me what that is.
That's a SEDI. So that's broken out. SEDI is separate for our students that are English learners. Yeah. No worries. So we analyzed the data and came up with our specific A through G problem areas. These are where we have a more significant percentage of students with a C or better. And so ninth grade electives, and then 10th grade English, these are things that have traditionally been problems in those school years. And then our 11th grade science, but overall math is still one of the biggest hurdles for our students. So we continue to be very focused on that and focused on middle school so that they come to us prepared. The last set of slides I'm not going to review, but these are valuable pieces of information for our sites that finally returned with the CASP assessment. So we haven't had target reports for the last few years. And this is the first time we get to really dig into more specific strands of our instruction where kids are doing well or not. And it really helps us target our teaching practices to refine certain areas or make sure we're giving enough attention to certain areas that show up on the CASP assessment.
I've never seen those target reports. That's super cool.
It is very cool. We were really missing them as far as data for us. And then each school can get their own separate. So one of the things we did over the summer was give them the district target reports and their site target reports so they could compare side by side how their kids are doing versus the district overall.
Great. And I would hope that then, like, in some of these PLCs, they're saying, like, hey, it looks like we have this target area, you didn't have this target area. What are you doing to teach this particular concept? Okay,
If a school does really well, they're like, tell us what you're doing, what's the secret in the sauce?
Give me your lesson plan.
Last thing I did, I think that came out of either a conversation here or was asked for. Mr. Cantwell had said there's some comparable districts out there that receive similar funding and similar school size. I looked a little further to look at demographics. Simi Valley is one that is a very comparable district to us in size and funding and demographics, and we considerably outperform them in both math and English language arts. So I think when we're looking at how we're doing against some other areas, schools or districts, you got to look at funding as an equation as well as demographics, not just one or the other. The other one that I looked at was Livermore, who was actually in our collaborative for the math collaborative with their A through G rate work that they're doing, and we're very similar to them, pretty much the same as far as how we've been performing. So. Just wanted to highlight two districts that are in the very similar circumstances as us as far as how they've been performing. And then the last thing is a lot of districts around us had a big dip coming out of the pandemic in their scores. We did not. We actually had an increase. And so there may be some discussion in the community or out there that why are we not growing as fast as other districts are over the last 2 or 3 years? It's because we didn't dip and we are not rebounding. We maintained high percentages through. So.
Thank you. This is helpful, and I know I can't even begin to imagine how much work goes into this, but I spent time with it before the meeting. I'm going to spend more time with it, and again, I think it's so important when people look at the data to understand the sort of narrative that you talk about here, because it isn't just a percentage. These are students. It's about the efficacy of the test they're taking, how long the test they're taking, what did they miss during COVID years? And so I think all of that put together, it's important that we tell that more comprehensive story when we talk about the successes and some of the challenges that we're facing. So I really appreciate how accessible this is, because I know how difficult it is to make this much data accessible for someone like me who's not great at data consumption.
So again, I'm glad that you clarified the couple of facts. The fact that state keeps changing, the way they score and, right? And we've talked about this before, but I think it's important for people to understand because, we're hearing people criticizing the district, saying, well, we're not preparing our students, our scores are low. And I think, and I think it's important that people understand that, again, post-pandemic, some of the changes, I'm very proud of the fact that we're doing better than our neighboring districts. But I've also seen this, being in higher ed, this movement now of a lot of universities, colleges don't even requiring SAT scores anymore. Can you?
They're moving back, so it's a shift. It's the pendulum is swung and it's coming back a little bit. So it's kind of a guessing game. The UCs have been a little turbulent with some of the things, even like the math framework. There's been a lot of discussion about that and not a lot of agreement. So we don't have a crystal ball on what's going to happen with that.
But the reason I asked that is for all of our parents and viewers out there, that it changes.
Yeah.
We have no control over it, and I know that you do a lot of work, and I love data, but when suddenly, the requirements change, as you said, even with the SAT, it complicates it not only for the district, but also for our students. But again, looking at the solid data right now and some of the stuff that we have went over today, and that, by the way, great presentation, I am very happy to see that we're doing better than our, at least, neighboring districts, and thank you for clarification.
Yep. Thank you.
Now you too can run free.
I'd just like to, you've already done it, I'd just like to extend a thank you to Dr. Anders. This is a lot of work, and it is difficult work. One of the things I'm really proud of, there was a moment in time when Dr. Anders, Dr. Macias, and myself were all at a school site at around the same time. And back in the day, we not only had to be in charge of our instructional program at the site, but we had to pull our own data. And that was really difficult. So what I want to tell our community is that Dr. Anders does that for every school site. This is a huge help to our instructional leaders. It's a huge help to our principal and our assistant principals because we give them the data and then they can just focus on what do we see as trends, what are we doing well, what do we need help in, and starting those discussions with department chairs and with teachers. And so it is a huge benefit to our district and to our site leaders, and that is honestly all the work of Dr. Anders, and I'm really appreciative.
Abby is really trying to bring back that Arsenio Hall vibe, which I appreciate. You can make fetch happen. I believe it.
I was just gonna say, fetch is not happening.
So we're gonna let's see where I'm a little turned around. So we were at.
We're at 12B.
Sir, yes, sir. Okay. So second reading and approval of the English Learner Master Plan as presented. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Ooh.
Second.
Saucy. Moved by Ms. Tabbitt, seconded by Ms. Ponser Kamkar. Dr. Knappich, any conversation, friends?
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Just want to go ahead and summarize what the English Learner Master Plan is. It is a plan that gives guidance to the school district, our schools, our teachers, our administrators, on how we identify students who are English learners, how we assess them, how we place them. It talks about our program design from TK through grade 12. It talks about how we monitor our students, how we reclassify, how we staff, the professional development, and how we evaluate. So that's it in a nutshell. This is a compliance document, and it's required by the state of California. So when we have our review by the state of California Department of Education, they will come out and they will check for each one of these components. And they do it with a fine-tooth comb.
There are a couple of master plans that are required by the state, and then there are some that we've just done out of the goodness of our hearts, right? So,
Correct.
Do you know, like, which are the ones that are required?
So Title III English Learner is required. Our school plans are required. So those, and the safety plans, yes. Yes.
Any other questions? Sorry, any other questions or? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Seeing no opposition, motion carries 4-0. We will move on to item 12C, approval of an increase in substitute teacher hourly rates for the Burbank Adult School and Burbank Unified School District Children's Centers effective October 1st, 2024, as presented. May I have a motion and a second? Moved by Ms. Ponser-Kamkar, seconded by Dr. Agkanian. Any conversation? Could we briefly just provide like a mini overview of why this was necessary? Because it absolutely was, I think, to whomever wants to share.
Yes, no problem. Okay, two different increases in substitute rate. The first one for the Children's Center, we found that the paraeducators for the Children's Center were making actually more money than the certificated teachers that were the substitutes, the certificated substitutes in the Children's Center. So we just needed to make sure there was parity there and that the certificated folks just made more money than the non-certificated folks. So that is why the Children's Center, we increased it by about $4 per hour, from about $16 to $20 per hour. So they'll be in comparison. We were using agency. We had a hard time recruiting, so we were using a lot of agency folks. We hope that at the end, this will actually save us money because we'll be able to recruit more people. For the adult school, as you know, the adult school, they have their own funding source. They have substitutes that come for just short periods of time for 2-hour type classes, so we needed to increase the rate. Again, their rate was under was around $30, $31, so we increased it to $40 to attract more substitutes and make sure that as they're coming for just short periods, or $45, short periods of time, to drive in, teach a course for 2 hours and then leave, you kind of needed to increase that wage, again, in order for them to have substitutes in the continuity of their programs.
I think what I appreciate about this is that I think often and previously, these educators have been overlooked. Adult school, easy to overlook, children's center, easy to overlook. So what I appreciate is that the attention was paid to identify the lack of parity and address it, because we want all of our educators to feel valued and seen. And I think this is a nice change from the sort of tone and tenor previous to this. So I appreciate that people caught it, identified it, and have addressed it. So I just wanted to say that. Any other discussion, friends? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, motion carries 4-0. Moving to 12D, approval of agreement for professional, wow, I really have middle school teacher throat right now. Sorry, it's so gross. Approval of agreement for professional services as presented. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Agakanian, seconded by Ms. Tabbitt. Any conversation? Okie dokie. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, that was nice. Seeing no opposition, motion carries 4-0.
Madam Chair, I do want to apologize for the last vote.
Oh, that's okay.
I was expecting a text from my mother. So.
A mom text. That actually happened to me today with one of my 7th graders. Okay, 13, consent agenda. Does any board member wish to pull items for separate consideration from anything on the consent agenda? Okay, then may I have a motion and a second to approve items 13A through 13I and 13K through 13Q as presented and 13I as amended?
13J as amended.
J as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Ponser-Kamkar, seconded by who? Dr. Agakanian, thank you, sir. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Seeing no opposition, motion carries 4-0. Before I read the retirements, this is the time of night where the board gets to do thank yous and shout outs. I know a couple people already sort of thank you'd and shouted outed. Does anybody have?
Reports?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, hold on one second. Ms. Tabbitt, did you have anything?
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. Sweet sauce. Oh, yeah.
I wanted to thank Matt Osmond over at Roosevelt for having me over today. It was really good to walk the site and see the Hate Is No Home Here sign, and I talked to some kids in the office for a while. Roosevelt's just a really wonderful school, and so I just wanted to say thank you. I saw some really great instructional things going on.
Yeah, a couple of shout outs. First of all, I want a big shout out to Jefferson faculty, staff, teachers, and Principal Ron Young, and Miss Awanesian from 4G class. So I had a visit at Jefferson, and I was not aware of this, but it happens to be the same day that a group of elementary teachers from Napa Valley were visiting Jefferson, learning about the wonderful math program that we had at our district. So we met in the library, and thank you for our librarian also to provide us with the facilities. And I love the fact that when the kids walked in, they were doing the "be quiet" sign because we were talking, and I was like, "Oh, good for you." But again, big shout out again to our principal and of course Ms. Havanesian. And I have a picture of her doing the 4, 8, and I love how she put it in. How you add the numbers at the end. I was taught mathematics very differently, but I was sitting there going, it does make sense. But then I love how the students start analyzing it even further, vertical, sideways. How you just take a number and put it at the end. I just thought it was amazing, and I couldn't even think of it. I was like, wow, it does make sense. So big shout out to our all the teachers and staff at Jefferson Elementary. I also want to, I did attend Burbank Arts and Education Foundation event last night. I know that Ms. Tabbitt was there, you were there.
I was at PTA.
You were at PTA. Wonderful event, and I love that video that Mr. Cho put out in terms of how the state gets budget. I'd love to see that, if we can get a copy and put it out there. Because it was also explained with the individuals and students that, this is how we get funded. So I loved how direct he was and on this approach, but also it's a good video to explain to people. It's not as simple sometimes as people think it is. It's not like city budget. It's not like a business budget. It's a little more complex. So I love the information. And if we can get a hold of that, The Tale of Two Tubas, I would love to. It's a very well done video. It's a good argument about instruments and how desperately we need everyone's support when it comes to our instruments. But also, last but not least, I would ask, Dr. Peter Kanapik. I know he was there at the YMCA event. So I brought the award, and if you want to talk about this, and this is yours, not mine. You get it for a second time, Dr. Kanapik. I had the honor to be there, but both of us got on stage. But Dr. Kanapik, if we can talk about this.
So last Friday, the Burbank Unified School District was honored by the Burbank YMCA at their 100th anniversary because of our partnership. And so for years, the school district has provided opportunities for our children to work and to participate in programs that are through the YMCA, and they benefit not just academically, but also social, emotionally, and also through the fine arts programs too. So it was a wonderful celebration and a great honor to go ahead and be recognized. And once again, it's a strong partnership. We do collaborate with the YMCA too, with the preschool program and infant care program over at Horace Mann too. So if anyone is interested, by the way, just reach out to the YMCA and they can work with you to go ahead and have your child enrolled in that program too. So, and then earlier this week too, we sent out through the Burbank USD e-news an advertisement to go ahead, and if you're interested in being in a YMCA program, that you can call the YMCA and join into a program there too. So wonderful opportunity. So
And
thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kanapik, and thank you for being there. And thank you for the YMCA for the acknowledgement. I also want to, one last item, I do also want to thank Burbank Leader for covering the article regarding what happened tonight about the whole partnership between us and Burbank Human Relations Council. It was a very nicely done article. And I think more people that read about it and learn about it, the better it is. Thank you.
Thank you. I did not ask at our last meeting, who was the librarian who did all of the research on the books for Hispanic Heritage Month? Alicia Feldman-Boot, yes. So I just wanted to thank her so much for that. She did a ton of work. Our librarians are doing a ton of extra work to bring age-specific book recommendations forward, and I realized I did not shout her out and wanted to make sure that we did.
May I add to that?
Of course.
I took a recommendation that night and I bought I Am Not Your
It's so
Perfect
good.
Mexican Daughter.
It's so good, right?
It's so good. Yeah, I recommend, it's a great read.
It is a great read.
And did not go down the path I thought it was going to go. It was fabulous, so.
Thank you. Couple of other thank yous. Ms. Harris and I attended the celebration of life for Joe Kruger at Roosevelt. It was a real, true celebration and an awesome opportunity. Just sit and listen to parents and students celebrate someone who was such a huge part of the Roosevelt community and the Burbank Unified community. So thank you to Principal Odman and everybody else for such a wonderful, also the PTA. There was a real celebration of his life and then a real celebration after. And I know it took a lot of work, so I just wanted to thank everybody involved. I want to talk about very quickly 2 events coming up. This Saturday, September 21st, from 9 to 12 at Burroughs is the 31st Annual BUSD College and Career Fair. I know I'll be there. I know Dr. Paramo is going to head over, so come check it out. The other thing is September 28th from 12 to 6 at Johnny Carson Park is Burbank Pride in the Park. Really excited about that as well. There's going to be lots of great booths, lots of great things that are there to support our kiddos and their families. So those 2 events are coming up, and echoing everybody's thank you to BAEF for a really wonderful event last night. Sounds like they did some wonderful fundraising. I think the email we got earlier today said they raised about $36,000, which is the most they've ever raised. So that's huge. And just and I'll end with this, that we're so lucky to have the continued partnerships that we have with Burbank Arts and Ed, Burbank Human Relations, with the Y, with Boys and Girls Club. I mean, almost every day there's a reminder of how our community lifts up our students and our families, and we're really lucky to be part of this community. So before we adjourn, I'm going. Yes.
Sorry. Since she's here, I had to bring this up. Multicultural night at Disney this coming Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30. So if you've never been to one, you should. I think last time I played my duduk, which was a hit on, I guess, social media. By hit, I mean like 100.
He's the Duke of the duduk.
Thank you. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I did a play years ago called Duke of Duduk.
I wonder how I know that. Do 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 do.
I did. It was a play about the pumpkin. I forgot what it's called. The kids play something pumpkin. I don't know.
Cinderella?
No, it wasn't. I forgot. It was such a good play. I'm sorry. Some of those of you who don't know, I used to play theater. My last play was at Barnesdale Park. But I was asked to do this children play, and I came in as the Duke of Duduk. And there's a part I played the wind. So if anyone has the video out there or something, please send it to me. It was years ago. But
how do you not have the video?
Back in those days, we didn't have cell phones. I'm aging myself, by the way, so thank you very much.
And on that confusing note, I'd like to read our retirements. A humongous thank you to Christine Assessor for her work as a paraeducator in the special education community. She was at Roosevelt and began her service in 1993. So thank you for decades of service and support. And to Nazeli Zargarian, who is a paraeducator with our English Language Learner program at Emerson, and she began to be part of the BUSD community in October of 2007. So thank you to both of you for the work that you did, and we hope you enjoy your well-earned retirement. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 9:22.